So I'd like to bring in some of our special guests, Councilmember Jumaane Williams. Assemblymember Nick Perry. And Senator Kevin Parker. And your mayor, Bill de Blasio. All right, so I'm going to ask everyone to stand, and I'm going to ask Ariana Brown to come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
All right, so before we hear from our special guests, I'd like to thank our co-sponsors and other partners for this evening. I'd like to thank GMAC and Shanduk McFadder. East Flatbush Village and Monique Waterman. Community Board 17, Barrington Barrett and Shree Fraser. Dr. Roy Hastick from CACI. Roy's coming. Robin Redmond from the Flatbush Development Corporation. Caitlin Brazil from CAMBA. Also to thank Man Up, Life Camp, AT Bishop of Man Up, Life Camp. I know I saw Life Camp here. There you guys, there you go. SOS Bed-Stuy. SOS Crown Heights. Now where's SOS Bronx? True to Life Cure Violence. Lay down the guns down. And Guns Down, Life Up. Very good. And with that, I'd like to invite our State Senator Kevin Parker to give brief greetings.
Good evening. I'm State Senator Kevin Parker. As you know, I represent this community, Flatbush, East Flatbush, Midwood, Ditmas Park, Windsor Terrace, and Park Slope. I'm the ranking member on the Energy and Telecommunications Committee, as well as the ranking Democrat on the Committee on Substance Abuse and Alcoholism. First, I want to thank the mayor for coming here to talk about this important issue. A lot of us have been talking about this for a very, very, very long time. And certainly the people who have been working on this issue in the community are all here and have been working on this a lot longer than I have. I certainly want to acknowledge my colleagues, Councilman Jumaane Williams and Assemblyman Nick Perry, for their work and for being here. We're literally fighting for our lives here, right? And the lives, particularly of our children. And that's really what's caused the urgency in this community. And there's a lot more that needs to be done. And certainly I know as we're going about this conversation, I've always said that, for me, the issues of gun violence are a tale of two cities. It's, Newtown and Aurora and Orlando, but then there's also New York and Chicago, and, particularly Flatbush, right? And we got to deal with what happens here in a different way than what they're doing with stuff around the country. And so I'm looking forward to that conversation and talking about the solutions, not just about how do we adjudicate, these issues, but more about how we engage our young people in a serious way from, sun up in the morning to sundown at night, so that they have alternatives to the violence that we're seeing in the community. So again, thank you for all participating. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much, and looking forward to our work together.
Thank you, Senator. Next up, I'd like to invite Nick Perry, your Assembly member and chair of the Black, Latino, Asian Caucus in Albany.
Good evening. Good evening. East Flatbush, we are pleased to welcome the mayor and hear from him on a very important issue. We live, most of us, in the 6th to 7th precinct, and that's a precinct that has been the site of a significant number of shootings, senseless shootings. Thank God the casualties, injuries, and the death are not as many as the shootings. But tonight we're going to listen to some presentation of solutions and hear from, and the mayor is going to hear from you so that our city council member in deliberations in the city council and the policy at the level of the mayor will reflect our concerns, address our needs so that we can see a significant reduction in gun violence, in shootings in our community. Safe streets, safe city, that's what we all hope and pray for. And in my capacity as chair of the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Haitian caucus, which includes at least 55 legislators from around the state, and as your representative from this district in the Assembly, I think it's my responsibility to work with the mayor to the greatest extent to make sure that we don't handcuff his efforts so he can address the problems, and hope that he will show the vision that we hope and prayed for when we went out in really big numbers to elect him. And I'm really pleased to have you here, Mr. Mayor. We want to hear from you, and we're not going to agree all the time. And I think in addition to gun violence, there are lots of other problems that we have, and gun violence rages when we defer dreams. And hopefully, we will continue to look at the actions that defer dreams, and the parents at 233, at 285. Thank you for pulling back on that co-location, but we certainly need for you to look at 233 also. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Assembly Member. I also like to acknowledge the Best-Eye Volunteer Ambulance Corps, one of our community partners here today. And with that, I'd like to introduce your council member, Jimani Williams.
What's up, East Flatbush? Make some noise, make some more noise now. East Flatbush, what's up? District 45, thank you for coming out. I want to say thank you so much to Mayor de Blasio for coming to our district. We know you're a very busy man, and a lot of us supported you, and we're very happy that you come back and answer some questions. We're talking about gun violence today. You can ask any questions you want, but we're focused today, hopefully, with gun violence, and you can talk about some other things. You'll see a lot of people in orange, because this month is Gun Violence Awareness Month. You can hand clap. It ends today. And the color of gun violence prevention is orange. And we're also proud to announce that the mayor has agreed, and the city hall will be lit up in orange today for the first time ever. And we want to say thank you so much for helping us acknowledge that. First, because this is what it's about, and I've seen already, but anybody who's lost a loved one to gun violence, can you please stand up? And this is the reason we're here. And you guys show so much strength to continue the conversation going forward. I've spoken to so many families that take the hurt and move it forward, so please give them a round of applause. Thank you. Second, we know that murders are down and shootings are down. We do give a lot of credit to our partners in the police department. Thank you very much. But sometimes some folks that get left out are the people who are doing a lot of great work in the street through Cure Violence and the crisis management system. So anybody involved in Cure Violence and crisis management, please stand up. These folks are on the ground. No gun, no bulletproof vest. interrupting violence all across the city and deserve a hand clap for their part in keeping the violence down. Thank you very much. So I want most of this time to be about questions that you are going to answer. We want to make sure everybody gets as many questions in as possible. So please, 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 don't be an elected official and don't talk too long when your time comes to answer your question. We have a one-question rule, and hopefully we can get to people after that. Please do not vote for me because I cut you off in the middle. We want to make sure that everybody gets a question. So turn to your neighbor and please tell them one question, please. Turn to another neighbor and say, if you only ask one question, we can all get a question asked. All right. That's the only ground rules, so we're going to keep to it, and then everybody can get a question asked. You can ask any question you want, but of course today we're trying to focus a lot on gun violence. I am a firm believer that a lot of the issues that East Flatbush is dealing with do lend itself to gun violence, and I've always said that the police are a partner in that, but they can't be the only answer because many of these communities are suffering from so many other things. And if you look at the communities across the country that are dealing with particularly the handgun kind of violence, they're dealing with under and unemployment, they're dealing with lack of access to education, they're dealing with lack of access to affordable quality housing. And if you don't solve those problems and you only send the police department, you're compounding the problem. It's unfair to them, actually, to ask them to do the job that all the agencies have to do. So I'm very happy that all those agencies I mentioned and others are here today to help answer those questions as well. So I think I have the distinct honor now of calling up a man I was very proud to support. Still very proud. As was mentioned, we're not always going to agree. Everybody knows I'm very happy to say when we don't agree. But thankfully, there's a lot more that we agree on than we don't. And the conversation I just had about gun violence, it was refreshing because I didn't have to convince this man about it. He already understood. So please give a round of applause for our Mayor, Bill de Blasio.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. It is really a pleasure to be here because there are so many people in this room who are devoted to this community and particularly devoted to our children. And it was sobering, to state the obvious, it was sobering when Jamani asked how many people, how many families have been touched by gun violence, and so many people stood up. It is a painful reminder how much we have to do. So yes, I'm here tonight because we feel very purposeful in our administration about this mission, about this challenge, and we're trying to do a lot of things very differently to address it. I want to thank everyone for it. You do. One of the things we're going to talk about is how there are community solutions. There's a lot that government has to do, and there's a lot that has to be done at the grassroots, and we want to understand better how we can be partners. So I want to hear from people tonight, both your questions and your suggestions about what we can do to be more effective. Let me thank the elected officials who are here. I want to say a special thank you to both Kevin Parker and Nick Perry. They do very, very good work for the people of this district in Albany. I've seen it with my own eyes. I always tell people Albany is a very difficult environment, particularly when you're fighting for progressive change and you're fighting for the city of New York. And they have continually delivered for this city despite the odds. Let's thank Kevin Parker and Nick Perry, please. And let us thank Ariana Brown, the young woman who led us in the pledge. Thank you. We appreciate it very much. And now I just want to take a moment to indicate to you, all the members of my administration who are here, and I just want to say something to you. These are a lot of the most important leaders of the city government, representing a whole host of agencies that have a real impact on the daily lives of you and your families. A lot of commissioners here, a lot of people who really make an impact. Now, obviously, a lot of our colleagues from NYPD who keep us safe. So I want to thank all of the commissioners. I can tell you, I've worked in public service a long time. This is a very, very hardworking group of people, a very devoted group of people. And at a town hall meeting, you get an opportunity to ask me things, to get me on record with things that we can commit to for the community, to raise concerns, to raise suggestions. But at the conclusion of this meeting, you also have a chance to directly talk with all these leaders of so many important agencies. And as I like to remind them at each and every town hall meeting, they're so devoted to public service, they will be here all night. So you can go up to them as many times as you want, raise as many issues you want. They have no place else to go. They'll just be here spending quality time with you. Let me say something about Jumaane Williams. I'm just going to say a few things up front, and then I want to open this up. The fight for the kind of changes we need is not easy. And Jumaane has been doing this in the scheme of things for only a few years, but the impact he has had in those few years is extraordinary. And I have marveled at his persistence, his vision, his creativity. He fights on many fronts at once. This is something I also really respect. I had the honor of being a councilman a few years ago. I really have looked at Jumaane and seen a particularly high standard he sets. So a lot of people know Jumaane first and foremost because of the work he does on affordable housing, because he's chair of the Housing Committee. And he's been a great champion for our affordable housing plan. And by the way, I'd like to note, this week in New York City, decision by our Rent Guidelines Board for everyone who lives in rent-stabilized housing, 1.5 million New Yorkers just got a rent freeze so they can help make ends meet. And if I'm thinking about Jumaane, I would say it's hard not to think about his latest achievement. And I've been very straightforward with the media and the public about this. Jumaane's been arguing for a whole new approach to summer youth employment. And to his great credit, he has not just talked about it as a thing unto itself. He has talked about it as one of the real solutions to a lot of the challenges our young people face and a lot of why our young people end up in a dynamic of violence. And I can safely say others in the council fought right there alongside him. The Speaker of the City Council fought diligently, but the emotional core of the fight came from Jumaane Williams, and for the first time in the city's history, two things. One, we will have 60,000 kids in summer jobs this summer. Thank you, Jumaane. That is literally the most in the history of New York City. And that's a big deal. And thanks to Jumaane's efforts, we said that we have decided, my administration along with the City Council, that there's not going to be a debate over this year after year. Those 60,000 seats will now be made permanent from this point on. And we're going to determine, working together, the council and the administration, what we need for the future. Because that number may be a lot bigger. I've said very openly to Jumaane, I want to make sure that the young people who would most benefit from the summer jobs get them. I care about every young person in this city, but I want to see a plan that shows me that the young people whose lives really need that summer job, for whom it would really be a change and a support that they're getting those jobs, and I want to see what that number is, that would allow us to give that kind of embrace and support to our young people every summer. And whatever number we determine, we're then going to put our efforts together to fund it over the next few years. So Jumaane's opened the door to a lot more summer jobs. If I may ask your indulgence, I understand the borough president has arrived, so I have a few more things I want to say before the questions, but may I pass the baton for a moment? I want to take the privilege, I'm going to be the temporary moderator here. Good evening, I'm Jumaane Williams. Well, now that he has his conservative haircut, he and I do look a lot more alike, you know. I said the first time I saw it, I said he looked like the head of the Chamber of Commerce. I said, like, what happened to the Jumaane we knew and loved? But power to the people, okay. Our borough president, I think I can safely say I have a lot of reasons I consider him one of the most essential partners of this administration, but one thing we can say that's particularly noteworthy, very, very few people who have served in public office have actually served us first on the streets of the city, protecting people as a police officer, but also as a civil rights advocate. That is a powerful combination. Our borough president, Eric Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought when the mayor was saying that Jamani's next achievement, I thought he was going to say he was getting married, you know? Just quickly, and it's about hearing from you. So, you know, I just want to be extremely quick, and everyone knows my just deep admiration for what Brother Williams has done around the issue on gun violence. He has really taken this issue on, as well as so many advocates are here. A.T. Mitchell, and you probably mentioned some of the folks who are here. Years ago, I did a CD that shows parents what to look for in their homes around guns, around drugs. We're going to re-release that CD. And when I put that CD out, I remember going to an event on 63rd Street in Park Avenue, and some of the parents came and approached me and said, you know, why would you put something out like that, telling parents where to look for in their homes? I was a cop at the time, a state senator at the time. And they said, you know, why would you do that? You know, and I explained to them, bullets are not carving highways of death on 63rd and Park Avenue. They're doing that on Park Place in Brooklyn. And we need to arm our parents with all the skills they need. When I was a lieutenant in the 88th precinct, I'll never forget, a husband and wife came in. The wife was a principal. The husband was an attorney. They walked inside the precinct because their child was arrested. Good young man, solid B, A student. They didn't even realize that he was selling drugs and guns right in their home. And let me tell you something, parents. If your child is selling drugs in your home, the cops come in, everyone goes. Grandmother goes, grandfather goes, the children goes to special care, the parents are locked up, everyone goes. You have to treat your home as a protector. Children don't have constitutional rights inside your home. They don't have that. That's your home. Now, you know, some people don't feel when I say it. Listen, I go through my son's book bag. I look at his phone. I want to know where you going. When you go to school, I check up on you. I do spot checks to see if you're in your classroom. I have to protect him till he gets to the place where he can protect himself. That's my role. And before a 9mm comes on the street, it is under someone's mattress. It is in someone's book bag. These children have become so smart of playing the game. They have a community gun where they were hiding in one location where different people can use it. So we have to outsmart the people who are trying to take our children from us. We have to be just as smart, just as intelligent as ever. And let me end with this. Why do I know that? When I was 15, and I tell this story all the time, I brought my mother a beautiful sweater. Mommy, when I came home one night, Mommy had that sweater under her foot, washing the floor with it. And I said, Mom, that was my gift to you for your birthday. And she said, baby, your life is a gift from God. You are wiping the street with it. Every time people see you, you have a beer in your hand or a joint in the other. I was arrested that year. My grades were despicable. She said, baby, I'll clean this sweater. Now you clean your life. You clean your life. My mother knew the entryway to us and changed me. These young people we need the entryway. We can't talk over them. We can't be arrogant. We have to meet them where they are. And so Mommy had that sweat in her bag when I became a a police officer, and she showed me she had that sweat in her bag when I became a captain in the police department. She had that sweat in her bag when I became a state senator, and she had that sweat in her bag when I became the first person of color to be borough president. She never gave up. So I'm not going to give up on these children. I'm not going to give up on them, but I'm going to love them the way mommy loved me, in a very real way. We must protect them so they can get through this difficult period that they're in. And we have to do it in a loving, nurturing, caring way. And that's where that real tough love comes from, because we love them enough to make sure that they survive this. And that's my goal, that's my commitment. I owe it to a mother that carries around a sweater to remind me, don't ever think you are better than these young boys on the street corner, because you were on the street corner also, and you got your life together, and they could do the same. Thank you, Mayor. Great job. The Mayor of the City of New York, really doing his thing.
Brother. Thank you. Thank you, Borough President. And thank you for framing this whole discussion, because it really does come down to each one of our children and what we do as people, as family members, as citizens, and what we do to change the way this whole city operates. So I want to say, when Jimani hit this point very powerfully, we will succeed not just through good policing, we will succeed through good education, good housing, good jobs. So in that vein, I want to thank everyone who works here at the Tilden Educational Complex. Let's thank all of them, all the people who educate our children. And I want to thank all the leaders of the NYPD who are here with us. And I want you to hear these numbers. This is, when I tell you good news, it is not for a moment to either say we don't have a whole lot more to do in terms of policing or all the other fronts I just mentioned. And we know a lot of the solution lies at the grassroots, but these numbers still speak powerfully to something that is changing. Citywide, so far this year, after 6 months, shootings are down 21% compared to last year. 21%. Down 25% in Brooklyn as a whole, down 31% in Jimani's council district. In the 6-7 last year, in this precinct, the lowest number of shootings, homicides, and burglaries ever recorded in this precinct. These are big changes, and we want to thank everyone from the 6-7 for your good work. And here's another number that speaks volumes. This year in the 6-7, 58 gun arrests have been made. 51 guns have been recovered compared to 40 last year at the same time. More guns are coming off the streets. We've been seeing that all over Brooklyn South. We have new tools, we have new technology like ShotSpotter, we have better training, we have our new neighborhood policing strategy, and this is going to make a very big difference over the months and years to come. Our NCOs, neighborhood-based police who get to know community leaders and community members. This is something that's been talked about for years but never achieved. We also know that to make the changes we had to start to draw police and community closer together. We're doing that in a number of ways. Everyone remember in 2013 the discussion was about stop and frisk. As recently as 2011, there were 700,000 stops in this city. 700,000. Primarily of young men of color. Last year, there were 25,000. Huge reduction in stop and frisk to make people respected. And the CCRB, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, has the lowest number of complaints in almost 15 years. Things are changing, and there's more change that has to happen. I want to thank the City Council, because they just passed some very important legislation, the summons reform legislation, to give our officers alternatives to arrest for low-level offenses. We don't want people getting arrested when they don't need to be. We don't want people being stopped when they don't need to be. We also changed the rules around marijuana arrests, and we have many fewer arrests for low-level marijuana possession. We don't want our young people tied up in a criminal justice system for very small offenses, and that is changing in the city. So there's a lot more that's going on, and I know our DA couldn't be with us, but Ken Thompson's also done a great job with more and better prosecutions for gun violence. We opened up our new gun court earlier this year for Brooklyn. There's a lot happening that will have a real impact. But we said you can't do it just on policing. And let me talk about education for the briefest moment. I believe in my heart, if you educate a child well and you educate a child early, it makes all the difference in the world. I'm very proud of pre-K for all. Every single child in New York City who's 4 years old now has full-day pre-K for free in every neighborhood of this city. And that makes a huge difference, and it makes the chances of a child succeeding so much higher. I want to emphasize tonight, we have people here ready to sign up. If anyone has a child who will be 4 years old this year, wants to sign up for pre-K in September, we have folks here tonight who will sign you up. In the same vein, for the first time in New York City history, every middle school child, every 6th, 7th, and 8th grader gets after school for free in this city now. And to all the activists, all the folks who do the extraordinary work of Cure Violence, I know I'm going to hear from you in just a minute. I want to thank you, first of all. I want to thank you for the impact you're making. And I want you to know this city is going to be doing more and more to support you and stand by you. I believe after school is one of those examples. If every kid in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade who needs an after-school seat now knows, and their parents know they can have it, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, there's no charge, that is a game changer, because if those kids for 3 hours when school ends, for the next 3 hours are in a safe and supportive environment and they're learning and they're growing, that's another way we cure violence. I got to tell you one thing, Jimani, just so you know, Jimani was a great supporter of these efforts, the pre-K and the after-school. I want to give you one fact that I know you will appreciate. The year before we got here in this administration, you had 214 full-day pre-K seats in your district. Now you have 1,818 full-day seats in your district. 1,600 more families are benefiting just in those few years. And we're doing a lot to try and get our young people to jobs when that time comes and they need a good job. We're trying to make sure that people know they can get training, they can get opportunity. Our Workforce One centers play a crucial role in that. And I want everyone to know, if you think that one of the things a young person in your life needs is an opportunity over the summer, that's not just the summer employment, that's so important, but also a lot of young people want to be in our youth programs over the summer, what's called Sonic, which is youth enrichment and recreation. We also have seats available in Summer Sonic, and people can sign you up tonight. So there's a lot of great opportunities to help our young people and to get them what they need. So I'll conclude by saying, I look forward to the dialogue tonight, but I do know one thing, I know we're on the right track. I know we have a strong beginning, and I know it will only happen if City Hall is truly connected to all the folks at the community level who are making a change. And I thank you, everyone, for all you are doing for this community, and I turn it back to Councilman Jumaane Williams.
Another round of applause for our mayor, please. Just really quickly, the mayor did thank the Tilden Complex, but I want to make sure we shout out, I don't think they're here, but the principals, Marina Viniskaya from It Takes a Village, Veronica Coleman from Kurt Hahn, Diane Verano from Cultural Academy for Arts and Sciences. Those are the principals who helped make this day, open up the building for us to have it. And I do want to shout out my precinct commanders, the ones that have the biggest precincts in my district, Captain Thomas Burke from the 63rd, Deputy Inspector Joseph Galata from the 67th, Deputy Inspector Richard de Blasio, oh no, that changed. I'm sorry. The Palumbo, sorry, that changed. Newly, Deputy Inspector Palumbo. Let's give him a round of applause. And two that are on the periphery, 61st Precinct, Captain Winston Faison, and 69th Precinct, Captain Giordano. Let's give them a round of applause, please. All right. East Flappers, y'all ready? Turn to your neighbor and say, remember one question. All right, so I'm hoping the first few questions are going to be about gun violence, so please raise your hand so we can get to it. Go ahead.
Welcome, Mayor de Blasio. So on behalf of Canberra, Brownsville, and Valence South, and all of the Cure Violence sites, because all we do is save lives, it would have been remiss if I didn't give you a lifesaver. Thank you very much. All right. We're giving you a lifesaver because we save lives and cure violence day and night. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christopher Underwood, and I'm here honoring my brother, Akil Christopher, who I lost to gun violence. My question is for you, Mayor Bill de Blasio. Don't kids and adults deserve to live in a community without gun violence?
Tell me your first name again. Christopher? It's good to meet you, Christopher. Stand up straight, Christopher. There you go. Don't let the height difference intimidate you. So, thank you for asking, Christopher. The answer is unquestionably yes. Unquestionably yes. Families have a right to live free of gun violence. Communities have a right to live free of gun violence. It takes a community solution. And I think this is the part that we have to be real about. It is education, it is housing, it is jobs, it is policing, and then it's the participation of the full community. And I think it's not exactly a secret to say too much of the history of this city led to some separation between community and police, and there wasn't the ability to have that real partnership we needed. We're trying to change that. And as that partnership deepens between community and police, you see shootings going down. It's no accident. So that is what we aspire to, exactly what you're asking. Thank you, Christopher.
You over here?
Okay, hello. My name is Monica Castleberry. I lost my son Jamal Singleton September 19, 2011 to gun violence. His case is still unsolved. It was caught on 3 different videos where the actual perpetrator is on film. I have like a twisted question, but I would like to know, why is his case still unsolved? And also, I would like to know, we have organizations that are out here that's supposed to help us, correct? All right, I would like to know why or what, let me get the right word in. What qualifies, or what do they have to start an organization? I mean, are they being background checked? How about their mental? Because we know that we can be, you know, emotional at times, but at the end of the day, we are a person who lost. So we have a right to be emotional. Right. But we have no right for any organization to tell a parent how to act, how to react when we're the ones who actually have had that loss.
First of all, I'm a parent of 2 young people, and I can only imagine the pain you've gone through, and I want to figure out what we can do to solve the case. So let me speak to that in a second. To the organizations, what I've seen, and Jamani certainly, I think, has shown me this in our conversations, there are so many organizations that are made up of people who have gone through the exact same loss, and that's what's motivating them, to stop that violence, to stop other people from going through that pain. So my experience with the Cure Violence movement is a lot of very sincere people who are working very hard, and in fact a lot of people who recognize that they went astray at some point in their life and they're trying to do something good with what they learned. In terms of finding the answer you're seeking, do you know what precinct the crime took place? 8-1? Okay. Chief, will you be kind enough to follow up personally with her afterwards? And you're already on it. Oh, okay, you've met already. Good. Chief Powers will follow up with you personally. And again, one of the things we do at town hall meetings is we give assignments. Chief Powers will follow up personally. I thank you. And make sure that we connect her to the appropriate people in the detective squad or whoever is appropriate to follow up. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I did forget, I apologize, to give a shout out to Chief Powers. who heads up Brooklyn Borough Patrol South. So let's give him a round of applause, please. And I do want to say to your question, these are all great organizations, ma'am, I'm sorry, great organizations that do great work. There's nonprofits across the city. If there's a problem with a particular organization, you can have a conversation, we'll find out. Just as any company, there could be someone that needs a talking to or someone who needs to be addressed. So I can't say everything is perfect, but I wouldn't, paint a hard brush with everybody. So we want to find out where you had the problem, and maybe we can speak to that organization or that person to figure out what happened. But I'm sorry for your loss. And I did want to shout out District Leader Melba Brown and District Leader Corey Provost, who are here as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Williams. I wasn't going to ask this question, but I was sitting here and I was saying to myself, I kind of did a survey in my community. I'm in the Brownsville area, and I did a survey myself with about 50, people in the community. And it was something, a light went off in my head, Mr. Mayor, and welcome to. I thought of something where a lot of young people or just individuals, they have a tendency to cross community lines. Like someone will live in Flatbush and go to Brownsville and harm somebody. These are premeditated. So I'm just wondering, can something be addressed or brought out to where these young people or whomever is in gangs, they get to know that if you come over into somebody else's community, there will be a different form of time or different form of accountability before we even address the fact of what they do. Because you premeditate and going from one community to the next, you're crossing a community line to go and harm somebody. So is it something that can be passed or something that can be done that if you leave Brownsville and go to Flatbush, if you leave Flatbush and go to East New York, leave East New York and go to Best-Stuyvesant, there will be accountability. And it was just something that I was saying to people where it should be some time set.
We got to get the question. So I think we got the question.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Look, I think I want to separate a couple of pieces to what you're saying. The law is the same everywhere. If you do violence to someone, I'm being very straight up with you, if you do violence in your own neighborhood or one neighborhood over or two neighborhoods over, it's violence. So the law applies equally. But what I take from your question is, how do we create a kind of community-based sense of sanction that you're, first of all, supposed to respect your own community and you're not supposed to go outside of it to cause harm to someone else. That, I think, gets back to the core points we talked about earlier. It's going to take a lot of culture change for all of us to actually, a lot of our young people, I believe in my heart, a lot of our young people drift into violence or drift into gangs and crews because of hopelessness, because they don't feel a sense of being a part of a community or of having the kind of future that pulls them to a positive place. I think we have to create, the commonplace notion that each one of our young people can succeed. And then if they make the wrong choice, it's against a backdrop where we've given them a much more positive option. And I think that changes the whole equation. But in terms of policing, it's going to be applied the same in any and all neighborhoods. And one thing that the NYPD has done a lot more of is to break up gangs and to take down some of our most violent gangs. So I think the key here is we want the positive, uplifting, forward-looking solutions of better education and better youth programs and better jobs and better housing, but we also need the kind of assertive policing that has led to a lot of the most violent gangs being disrupted, particularly in the last year.
And I just want to make sure, sometimes we use gangs and diminish the young people that are there, so I just want to make sure when we talk about it, remember that it's also young people there. We want to figure out why they're doing the negativity associated with the gang and not just say gang is a throwaway line. So I just want to make sure we keep that as we go to conversation. So I just want everybody to know, I see your hands, all right? So I'm going to try to get to everybody. I apologize in advance.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Valderoli. My son was murdered. I don't like to hear when people use the word lost because I didn't lost him. He didn't run away. He was murdered in 2013 on St. John's Place. The guy that killed him, Deshaun Watkins, he got 23 years, which I don't feel that was enough, but at the end of the day, it's something. And I keep hearing everybody saying it's getting better. I don't see it because I live right opposite Kingsborough Projects on Pacific Street. And it was a murder there last night, a 20-year-old boy right to the 7th walk. So I don't know. And I have a 17-year-old son that my husband called me 5 o'clock this morning when he was going to work. He said, don't let Kwame go outside today. My baby gets upset because I try to keep him safe, but there's so much we could do. And he said to me, if I think just because what happened to Jermaine, going to happen to him. But every time he stepped through that door, and I hear a gunshot or firecrackers, my heart skip a beat because I cannot go through that again. So when people say, your son died or you lost, he was lost, no, he was lost, he was murdered. So until we all wake up and stop using that word lost, no, you didn't lost your son. Your son was murdered. Thank you.
I think when we talk about the things that are happening, no one for a second says we're in an acceptable place. I think we are saying when something happens in favor of peace or when we have fewer murders or fewer shootings, we want to acknowledge that progress. It does mean something very powerful in human terms, but it also reminds us of why we're doing this, because we can change things. So nothing I can say can address your grief, but I'm not going to say we aren't making some progress when I see some real progress. We've got to keep talking about the progress, and we've got to talk about the urgency of the problem at the same time. The things that we have to do to reach young people, because any young people that picks up a gun, something went wrong for a young person to want to pick up a gun. They are not born wanting to pick up a gun. Something went wrong. Some of that is the society around us that glorifies violence. And I wish we could tell the movies and the TV and everybody to stop glorifying violence, but we don't have that privilege. But we do know we have not provided our young people with the options we could have. We do know we didn't until now. Not every child got pre-K. Kids weren't getting after school. Kids weren't getting opportunity. So I'm not trying to in any way diminish the pain that you're talking about. I'm trying to talk about the fact that some progress is happening, and that has to inspire us to go a lot deeper.
And I just want to make sure, sometimes we mention the statistics. I know that the statistics, even though they sound better, have nothing to do with the person who has dealt with the violence that's still going on. So when we say that, we got to make sure that we remember that. And I know there's still some pockets where we're trying really hard to make sure we continue to go down. But God bless.
Hi, I'm Sandy. I'm from 55th in zip code 11203. And in my location, I noticed there's a lot of gun violence. And I think the reason to that gun violence, because I literally work in the neighborhood one-on-one with these kids, is homelessness. We got a lot of youth who sincerely do not want you to know that they don't have anywhere to go. And they literally stay on the street, hang out on the street. So you tend to see a group of kids, and everything they use the word gang, and it's not gang, it's homelessness. Just a couple nights ago, I literally used my car to let 3 kids sleep in my car. 3 kids, because I used to let kids come in my home until they literally take my credit card and scam me. So I don't do that no more. I let them stay in my car. What we're going to do to help, and where these guns are coming from, with the homelessness, with the youth,
All right, we got to
instead of the
get
cops
one question, Sandy.
So the situation with homelessness is very real, and it's different, and the city's still catching up with this reality. We started to see homelessness in the 1970s and 80s. It was a lot of single adult men. It was a lot of people with substance problems and mental health problems. Today, it is families. More and more in our shelters, it's working families. This is an economic reality now. It is the cost of housing shot up, too many minimum wage jobs, everything that made it so hard for people to make ends meet. So we have found now, like we have shelters all over the city, they're full all the time. So what we're finally able to do, and I want to thank Steve Banks, who's the commissioner who's been leading this effort, we finally figured out how to get people from shelter to permanent housing. 32,000 people in the last 2.5 years who were in shelter now have permanent housing. 32,000. That's a good thing. But the shelters are still full. The shelters are still full because that economic pressure keeps filling the shelters. So we're trying to deepen our efforts. We're trying to stop people from being evicted with legal services, provide a lawyer, stop an eviction. We're trying to give people rental subsidies so they can stay in their home. Then there's the individual young people. And what we also see is a problem with homeless youth, runaway youth, youth who have been cast out of their homes. By the way, that's particularly true for LGBT youth who their parents rejected them, which I find as a parent absolutely unacceptable that any parent would put their child on the street. The city has added hundreds and hundreds of more shelter beds specifically for teenagers and specifically for runaway youth. And there's much more to do. But I want you to know we're trying to reach those young people because they have a very special need. They cannot be in a bigger shelter. They need to be handled just in a facility for young people. And we're finally putting in the resources that we hope will allow us to reach them on a much bigger level.
Hello, my name is George Patterson. I'm the principal of My 11 School for Performing Arts. A couple of weeks ago, I received a phone call, I think, that no principal wants to get. A couple of my students were shot in a park just a couple of blocks from here. I rushed to the hospital, and one of the young men was shot in the face. And I was there with his parents. And it was difficult, it was hard. My question is, the community school model, I know I believe it has been reserved primarily for renewal schools. Is it at all possible to expand on that? It's something that I would like I would want for my school.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for what you do. Let's give him a round of applause. We appreciate your work. And we appreciate our educators, and I really want to thank you for going there to the hospital and being there with the family. Yes, the community school model is growing. In this city, before we came along, there were some community schools, a handful of community schools. Now we have, you're right, every renewal school, that's 94 schools that have had trouble, and we're trying to help them go through a renaissance. Every single one of them is a community school, but there's about 40 others on top of that. So it's over 130 community schools now. And we find this model is working. The community school model is predicated on the idea you get the entire community involved in trying to help children. You get mental health care and physical health care in the building. And I hope you've heard about the work my wife Charlene is doing, trying to really get mental health care to all New Yorkers who need it. But that starts, Charlene always talks about, we see, I want to speak to your specific question, but just a very quick aside. We see these tragedies so often involving young people and guns. We see the campus shootings. Charlene always says, how many times, when you hear the story later on, how many times was there a mental health problem that was evident years and years before, and everyone knew it, and no one wanted to talk about it, or no one wanted to make that call to report it, and we have to destigmatize mental health to get at a lot of these problems. So one part of what community schools do that really helps is, if you know that just like you would go down to the nurse in a lot of schools and no one would think anything ill of you for doing that, it's just as easy to go get some mental health support. It starts to destigmatize, and we catch problems very early in young people. And we catch them early, we can actually do something about it. Mental health problems are implicitly treatable if we recognize them. So that's a big change we need to make.
I just want to add, too, you don't have to have a mental illness to have trauma that you need to talk to someone about. So it's very important, particularly with the violence that we deal with. It's from a lot of unsolved trauma, a lot of trauma that young people deal from the beginning that they never get assistance with. So we have a lot of health care professionals in the cure violence model in some of the schools. We got to make sure our young people take advantage of that, and some of our adults also.
And just to finish, I agree 100%. So to finish, yes, the goal is to keep expanding the community school model because it helps get parents to be much more active in their child's education, which is another big plus. So 130, but it will be growing.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. My name is Pauline Wallace. I'm a registered nurse working at Kings County Hospital, one of the busiest public hospitals in the city, and also a member of New York State Nurses Association. My question is, what is the city doing to make sure that the public hospital will serve so many undocumented people and people of color and the poor, to make sure we get the proper funding so that we could provide the programs that are necessary? Because at Kings County Hospital, there are too many gunshot wounds, too many people coming in the ER, fighting. There, you have one family member on the table and a gang member coming in the ER fighting, try to shoot up the place. So we would like to know what the city is doing to make sure the funds doesn't go all the way to the private sector and the public get left behind.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Thank you for what you do also. Thank you for the way you serve all of us. And I have a deep appreciation for the New York State Nurses Association. We've had a very close relationship. You know that the Health and Hospitals Corporation, which represents all of our public hospitals and clinics, has been in a lot of financial trouble the last few years. And it turns out that a lot of things that were done by the federal government and a lot of things that were done by our state government have actually been driving, unfortunately, some negative changes for HHC facilities. We've been losing a lot of money we used to get. So the city of New York, in the last year, literally put $1 billion extra into HHC to shore it up. So just to give you the satisfaction of knowing, is it a priority? Is real money going in to help support our hospitals and keep them strong? Even though we've lost federal money, we've lost state money, I think $1 billion is an example of real commitment, and we're going to keep doing that. What we've said to the folks who work in the hospitals, help us. We're going to have to make these hospitals more modern and effective to deal with this challenge. We have to get a lot more people signed up for insurance. As you said, the undocumented, unfortunately, under the strange laws of this country, we have 12 million people who are not recognized, who are part of the lives of this city and this country, but our national laws do not recognize their existence, and they can't have health insurance, which is ludicrous. But in this city, we also have 500,000 people just in New York City who could qualify under Obamacare for insurance and are not signed up. We're committed to going out very aggressively into communities and getting people health insurance. It's better for them and their families, but it'll also help HHC because there'll be more revenue. So we have an aggressive plan to protect our public hospitals, and they need to be for the good of the community. I thank you.
Yes, good evening. My name is Reverend Terry Lee. I want to say thanks be to God for the great work that He's doing in our life. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership, and certainly Mr. Council, Jamani Williams, I want to thank you. Put your hands together for Mr. Jamani and our mayor.
Don't use up your question with the claps, though.
Okay, sir. All right. Well, Mr. Mayor, certainly I have been out there in the community over 20 years, volunteering, doing community service, try to bring together the police and the community. And my shoulder been paining me because I get so many pump on my shoulder. Reverend, you're doing a great work. Now, we're doing this unity walk, and we have been working with Commander Rocky Robinson, helping to save the life of the kids by providing them with jobs and
Pastor
give them
Terry,
opportunity.
you got to get to the question, brother.
So the question I'm asking you, Mr. Mayor, here we are, the problem that our young people have with the violence, many of them have problems with the police. How can you help more of us that are doing the grassroots work in the community to strengthen that police and community relationship, so when the youth see the police, they don't have to be afraid, mainly the immigrants?
Thank you. Pastor, first of all, thank you. I've seen firsthand the work you've done bringing police and community together, and I appreciate it. And on top of that, you have a wonderful voice. Has anyone ever told you that? So thank you for the good work you do. I think everything we're doing is exactly oriented to that notion of helping our young people feel differently about their relationship with police. Start with stop and frisk. If 700,000 kids, it was overwhelmingly young people and young men of color, were stopped in a single year, treated like they did something wrong even though there was no evidence they did anything wrong, that right there created a wedge, created a distance between police and community. We had to solve that. We had to create a sense among our immigrant young people that they were respected and embraced. That's one of the reasons why we did ID NYC as a message to everyone. Everyone belongs in the city, doesn't matter what your documentation status is. And the NYPD has been very enthusiastically involved in that effort because they want all young people, regardless of documentation status, to know the NYPD will protect them and the NYPD will never give their name to the federal government. And we've made that very, very clear. So I think we've done some of the right things to start developing that. I think the neighborhood policing model, which is really not getting the attention I think it deserves, it's making a huge impact to have officers trained from the beginning. Remember, all these officers are coming into the NYPD now being trained in neighborhood policing. We have a graduating class tomorrow at Madison Square Garden, every single member of whom was trained to think about neighborhood policing and relationship developing and de-escalation in the relationship between police and community. It's a whole different approach. I think you're going to see many more of our officers who will come to you and so many active community members and say, I need to get to know you. I need you to help guide me in how I can serve this community. And these leaders of the NYPD here, I've talked to a lot of them, and they really believe in that philosophy. And I think you're going to see it take root more and more. Thank you.
All right. I know a lot of people in the room. I got all your texts. I see all your hands. I cannot call everybody at the same time. I'm going to continue to try my best.
People are texting you from in the room?
Yes, they are.
Okay, that's aggressive. That is aggressive.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. First and foremost, my name is Carrie Edwards. I'm from Brookdale Hospital. We see a gunshot victim every 36 to 42 hours. The question I have is really more for the partners in the cure of violence. The gun buyback program seems to have been very successful, yes. But a lot of the young people don't really turn in the guns, one, because they don't trust the people who they're giving their guns to, as well as there's really not enough money to give in a gun. So my question really is, with a $2 billion surplus, sorry to say that, sir, is it possible to trust Brownsville In, Violence Out, GMAC, to be those folks who do the gun buybacks because they know the kids who are usually committing the crimes? And on top of that, the next statement would be, is it possible to create an explore?
You got one question.
It's one question.
Yeah, you just asked
one
me.
question.
Once they return the guns,
one question.
It is, would they be able to create an explore program for agencies so that there is some hopelessness?
Thank you.
I want to thank Kerry Edwards for the great work he does at Brookdale Hospital. Thank you very much, Kerry. Kerry is a friend, but he gets limited to one question like everybody else. So, the first question. So I think you're asking two things. Are we offering the right amount to encourage the buyback, and who should be doing it? So I would say those are both good questions I don't know the answer to, but now I'm going to go and get the answer because I hadn't recognized that those are the kind of things we have to think about strategically. But let me see if anyone from NYPD wants to speak to that issue about if we think there's things we could be doing that would help make the gun buybacks more effective. Chief Powers.
Well, the short answer to that, as far as the money, in most cases we're giving $200, and some of the guns we're getting aren't worth that. But some of them are. So maybe, depending upon the type of firearm that's being surrendered, we can adjust that price. So that's part one to the question. And then as far as using different people, we normally give those, we normally advertise it and we put it out, and many of our points where we're going to collect the guns are in churches. And I don't know, I don't think that's an overwhelming concern of the community, thinking that we're going to arrest people right then and there. Because I know for a fact, nobody's ever been arrested at a gun buyback program. So could we possibly use some extra help? If people from GMAC would like to help out and they can bring in some more guns, we'd be more than happy to entertain that.
So,
Thank you.
I would say one, you can hand in the gun anytime. Also to the precinct, most people don't want to. To the funding, well, I think the gun buybacks, they have a place and it's good. You never know which gun is going to do a crime. I don't know how impactful some of the gun buybacks are, but I wish the DA was here because I don't know if it's called Safe Serenity, may have called it something else. I think those are a lot more impactful in the community because they help people relieve their summonses that sometimes prevent them from getting jobs and stuff like that. But, okay. Go ahead. Don't forget. But y'all saw me coming around all the time. I understand that. Hold on, Flatbush, hold on. I cannot get to everybody. If I call 5 people here, there'll be 5 people here mad at me. So I'm trying my best to move around. Go ahead, sister.
Hi. My name is Oriana Vigilance. I'm a part of GMAC organization. And I feel like everyone is just talking about events that already happened and like what are we going to do to those events, but not talking about how we benefiting these gangster or gangs. Like, what are we giving them to tell them or convince them to stop what they're doing? Like, what are we, like... Everybody just saying, like, what happened? What are we taking? What are the actions? We cannot prevent that. So what is the benefits are we doing to stop it?
Well, I would like to welcome you to the spotlight and turn the question to you. Wait, keep that microphone. I'm going to ask you what you think would be persuasive to a young person to help them on a more positive path.
I feel like we should have more, like, you see how we have all these organizations, SOS, GMAC, and et cetera. I feel like there should be more. We cannot fit all these people that's doing all this violence. Like, and even if so, you don't want to bring somebody that like interferes with something we already have. So I feel like there should be more like groups or stuff they can come to, or like about their.
But what do you think the young person you're trying to reach needs more of that would change their life? What's missing?
I feel like we need more mentors. Like, more people to look up to. Like, somebody like there most of the time to say stop. Like, have a stoplight. Like, I'm not really sure. I'm like 16, so like.
You're doing good. You're doing good. So more mentors is your answer. It's a good answer. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Alicia Lowe. I'm a homeowner.
Wait. Yeah. Can you get your microphone? Can you hear it?
Hello. Can
There
you
you
hear
go.
me now? Okay. My name is Alicia Lowe. I'm a homeowner and a long-term resident of East Flatbush. I live near the border of Tilden Avenue near the cemetery. And recently there's been like a series of shootings. And I do like how the 67th precinct is responding. I think they've been very vigilant. But I'm very curious about what financial resources are we pouring into that area in terms of surveillance cameras in vulnerable places like business zones or parks, you know, to be helpful in terms of deterring gun violence or ensuring when something does happen, we actually have actual evidence of the person who's doing the crime and we can help assist the cops in actually tracking that person down.
It's a great question. I appreciate that. So I'm going to let the precinct commander speak to the specifics to two big examples I would use. With the help of the city council, and they really made this a priority last year, we have 2,000 more officers who will be on patrol by the end of this year. So an overall increase in NYPD of 2,000 officers, which is going to allow them to have much more ability to cover all neighborhoods. And then second, we're using ShotSpotter in a lot of parts of the city. So it's not just surveillance cameras, But actually, we now have technology that tells the police immediately when a shot goes off. We're catching all sorts of information we didn't before. We're finding the folks who did the shooting. We're finding weapons. It's really making a huge impact, and it's reaching more and more of the city. Let me have the precinct commander speak to that area specifically that you talked about.
First and foremost, thank you for acknowledging the work of the men and women of 6-7. What I could say, and I'm going to piggyback on what the mayor said, the shot spotter technology, what it's allowing us to do under the community model is our NCO officers are going out now, and they're going there. Sometimes we're not getting a call 911 of a shots fired job, and we're getting through the shot spotter, and we're able to get out there, and now we reach out to the community. What we're doing is we're finding cameras on houses. We've solved about 4 or 5 shootings this year with the community help that came from a shot spotter. We went back, we rang doorbells. It gave us a place to go and a place to start. So there's a lot of cameras. I think we have 46 Argus cameras throughout the precinct. There are 2 in the area that you're speaking of, but also a lot of private houses have cameras. And part of our outreach, as soon as we have that shot spotter, is get our NCOs the outreach to the community, to get to where your area is, to ring the doorbells, and hey, find out what's going on. And a perfect example, and not far from where you live, we had a shot spotter. No calls from 911. We rang a doorbell, and someone said, hey, I didn't hear the shots, but go down the block. There's a social club, and it probably came from there. And sure enough, we found the social club. Was where the source of the shots fired. And it's a perfect example of us using technology, using our neighborhood policing model, and help from the community. We can't do it without you. So we're working very hard, and it's going to expand as we go forward. Thank you.
Sorry. First of all, may I have a pen for you from SOS Brooklyn? SOS New York, actually. All right. Next, I want to say thank you for all your work. Thank you, Jamani Williams, for even doing this and having him here, because this is very important. When my sister was murdered in 2002, she wasn't murdered by a teenager. She was murdered by somebody that was 25 and up. SYEP is a great thing. It's from 16 to 24. And I'm fighting for that because a lot of teenagers will keep a lot of guns out of their hands if they have a job. But what are we doing for the people that's 25 and up? Our statistics show that people that's getting shot are 25 and up. The shooters are 25 and up. What are we doing to target that audience? Like, what are we doing to stop them from coming home hopeless, having teenagers, can't feed them? What do we do with that population?
No, you're right on the money. We have to, I think with that population, it's about jobs. Meaning, you know, I think where we're trying to go is if we reach more people very young, more kids very young, early childhood education, if they need mental health support, you know, if you think about the world we're trying to create, you get kids very young and you make a difference in their life and you keep making a difference. But what you're saying is right. There's a lot of kids who did not have that. And now they're 25, they're 26, they're 27.
They can't work, some of you.
Right. But so then the question is, how do we help them get a job that pulls them in the right direction? So Greg Bishop, step forward. This is our Commissioner for Small Business Services, and he grew up.
Good evening. I grew up in East Flatbush, right on New York Avenue in Beverly. So as the mayor said, I am the Commissioner of the Department of Small Business Services. We operate the Workforce One Centers, and for those who don't know, the Workforce One Centers help job seekers find jobs. If you do not have a skill, we actually help train you, and then we put you into a job. We are focused on technology, we're focused on healthcare, we're focused on construction, we're focused on a lot of the sectors that are growing. So for those who have a phone or something to write on, if you go to nyc.gov/workforce1, that is certainly an area where you can learn more about what we do, or if there's anyone that needs immediate follow-up, I'm right here, I can give you my card, and we can have someone. We have a center located downtown Brooklyn. It's really accessible, but we could actually come into the community, we could work with the council member to have someone here and create office hours where someone could come to his district office with job orders. We have over 1,700 open positions right now that we are hiring for. So yes, you are surprised. We have a complete system across the city. So definitely looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Now let me take this one more step. Tell me your first name again. Shaniqua. So, Greg, can you follow up with Shaniqua? Shaniqua, I think beyond the fact, as he said, 1,700 jobs, I mean, there's such a disconnect because we have a city that even though a lot of people are still struggling, the city's economy is strong, a lot of jobs are being created, a lot of the jobs are not getting where they need to be. So a lot of young people who it would make a world of difference are still not being connected to the job. He's got jobs he can connect young people to. I think you and your organization should directly have a working relationship where you can, every time you find a young person who needs that, it's a one call to make the connection. So you guys will figure it out. Thank you.
By the way, the mayor is not in danger of leaving yet. So we're going to treat...
What am I not?
Not in danger of leaving yet. You're not rushing out.
I'm chilling.
So I'm just letting everybody know.
Hi, my name is Nicole Crowley, and my brother was murdered. Nicholas Telemek was murdered July 4, 2011. This is our 5th year. This year we're doing a visual candlelight and walk, and we noticed that, and we went to the 67th precinct, and his Crime Stoppers poster was taken down. So my question is to the precinct, what we do with these cold cases, are we getting answers still as families? Are they going to be still being worked, or what's the next step?
I'm aware of the walk through Rob Dibble, and we do I think every 2 years now, every year. So I'm looking forward. We're going to have our officers out there as well, and it's a great time for us to get the Crime Stoppers out there for that. As far as the case is not closed, we still ask about it as we go through and we bring people in to do briefings, and we ask them about anything and knowledge they may have. So any pertinent knowledge that comes into that case is given, and we do get information on older shootings and homicides. So it's asked every time we bring someone through the door about a homicide. So no one's ever forgotten, and we continue to keep it, and the case is still open. And we can follow up afterwards, and we can talk some more.
And just follow up, you may have seen, I don't remember all the details, but there was a case just a few weeks ago where it had been years and years, and there was no lead at all, apparently. And NYPD found someone who told them about someone who led them to another country where they found the perpetrator. So I want to affirm this point. They do not let these cases go, and they're looking for every lead they can get.
I see everybody's hand.
He sees all, knows all.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Godfrey Sandiford. I'm the president of a block association in the community. I was the witness of a murder on my block 5 years ago this summer. The killer is now serving 27 years in prison. But watching the young man who was shot dying in the street with a huge hole in his neck is the most horrible thing I will probably ever live to see. I work with the commander of the 67th Precinct, Inspector Galata, and his youth officer. And one of the things that they've been trying to do there is work with the young people before they get to the point to murder each other like they did on my block. My question is, how can the youth officer get to use this very auditorium that we're standing in to work with the young people in the wintertime when she does not have access any longer to the outside facilities, because we find the amount of red tape it takes to try to get this very auditorium, the track upstairs, is almost impossible. How can that be done?
Okay. So which precinct, I'm sorry again? 6-7. Okay. So let's do a town hall meeting special here. Let's follow up with the Department of Education and get your youth officer, and let's see if we can facilitate getting this facility open for your youth officer on a more regular basis. So we will follow up with you on that.
So the problem is that happens to everyone. There's no access to the schools all across the city, if you want to respond to that.
So, no, it's a very real problem. So, look, the I think what we want to try and do is figure out some kind of regular process to get people into the schools. The historic issue was one of money, and then there was some bureaucracy, as you indicate. The bureaucracy is the easy part. We can overcome the bureaucracy. The paying for it's what we have to sort out. We are trying to fund a lot of the other things that we've talked about tonight that we think will make a big difference: the job training, the pre-K, the after-school, the anti-violence efforts. But I've heard this a lot all over the city, that there's a real concern about access to these kind of facilities. So I will make this promise, because we have another budget coming up not so long from now, is to figure out, we have to come up with a cost. And then we have to talk to the city council and agree it's going to be a priority over something else.
Not the youth jobs.
Not the youth jobs. See? Here it begins. No, for good reason. But I'm willing to have us come up with a vision of how much it would cost to do it on a regular basis, and then put that in the budget process and see if we can get that approved.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Nadea McCrae. I am a captain.
Wait, where are you?
Over here.
There you are. Sorry.
I am a captain in the NYPD Law Enforcement Explorers, and I've been an explorer for 4 years. My colleague, Kayla Durancy, is a lieutenant in NYPD Law Enforcement Explorers. Thank you. She's also the winner of the essay contest for Commissioner of the Day. And
Wow.
I was once a
Congratulations.
child also involved in things I shouldn't have been, and this program actually brought me out of it and gave me hope to do better. And we're asking for the reinstatement of the loss of $50,000 of budget cuts that could affect posts citywide.
Including posts over there, like post 5800 who are working here tonight.
All right, thank
Well,
you.
Hold on a second. Hold on. So first of all, I commend you both.
Thank
And
you.
Look for.
Thank
Are you both planning on going into law enforcement?
Yes.
That's a yes. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
We want you to go into law enforcement. We'd appreciate it. Tell me your name.
Nadea McCrae.
First name?
Nadea.
Nadea.
Yes.
Nadea, you have a law enforcement voice already. I would accept an order from you, okay? So now, here's the question. The $50,000, I'm not sure what you're referring to. What program are you
Every
talking
2 years, explorers come together for a national competition. Throughout those national competitions, over 100 have gone every single competition. And now, this year, we were limited to 93. And with the competition being only not even 2 weeks away, we were limited to 65. And 30 kids had to tell their parents that they couldn't go to Arizona. And many kids were in summer youth, and when asking for a week off, were
You know about
fired from their job. And now they're also cut from nationals.
Okay, this is news to me, and I don't like what I'm hearing. I'm glad you're raising it. Do we know, is that police foundation or is that public funding? Hold on, we got to do a consultation.
So I just started getting emails about this yesterday, so I don't have enough information as well. But whoever started sending emails, it was working. I sent it to my staff. I don't have information on it yet.
Okay, let's give you a quick turnaround on this. When is the competition?
We're scheduled to leave July 10th.
Do you know the answer to what happened?
We'll connect. We've been working with your office, so we'll connect. Listen, both the council and our office heard about it. We are going to also connect with the mayor's office and try to get all these young people to go. We have been on top of it. We've been on top of it.
Good. Thank you for raising it.
Good evening. My name is Sean Duke McFadden. I'm the Executive Director and founder of GMAC. And we came here today to talk about gun violence prevention. And I am someone who voted for you, and I work within the confines of the 67th Precinct and Councilmember Jemani Williams. And I work under the crisis management system, which you're one of the supporters of, and that is the cure of violence that we talk about. Crisis management system does not just deal with those who are on the front lines stopping the violence, But also the things, for example, the woman from the hospital talked about those who are in the hospital ready to show up the hospital. Under the crisis management system, we have hospital responders. If the community asks me a question about a preventive measure to any of the gun violence, we give them an answer under the crisis management system. When you started speaking today, I listened to the numbers that I'm aware of. I go to the 67 precinct meetings, and even our inspector, Galata, when he speaks about the decline of gun violence within the 67 precinct, he gives NYPD their accolades, and he gives GMAC their accolades, right? Respectable, because that is community working together. They have a job to do as we have a job to do. Our job was minimizing. We have stopped numerous incidents from happening. We prevent retaliations. But when we come to talk about what is making the city safer, our mayor is never speaking of the Cure Violence Crisis Management System, which includes the Department of Health, the Mayor's Office of Contract Service, and many others. If you are under this crisis management system, please stand up. Even my young people, please stand up. If you think you can add to the prevention of the crisis management system, please stand up. What this is people who are on the front lines who believe in a system of prevention, but when you get out there and speak about our communities, you never speak about all the partners within the crisis management system. Why is that?
So I just want to say, we still have the one question rule. GMAC is a co-sponsor of the event, so I gave him a little leeway there. Just
It's
so
still,
everybody-
it's still one question. I appreciate it. I think what I was trying to say in the beginning of this town hall meeting was my appreciation for everyone who is making a difference. And the numbers speak for themselves, and you're familiar with the numbers that we've invested. So if you're saying, I don't miss the point at all, that in the way I talk about our fight against violence, I don't place some of the organizations the way you're saying it. And I have to say, because I haven't had an opportunity to experience their work very personally. And I'm clear about that, and I want to. And I'm happy that Jumani made this the focus of this town hall so we could start to have that relationship and that dialogue. But I believe in community-based solutions in everything we're doing. You know we've kept increasing the resources. Before we came here, you know the commitment of this city to cure violence initiatives was very small. You know it has increased every single year. So I would say to you that investment is the most important example of respect and belief in what you're doing. But I also need to see it and feel it and experience it to be able to talk to the people of the city better about it, and I would welcome an opportunity to do that. Thank you.
In the white.
The white guy or the white shirt? Which one was it? Good evening. Thank you. I'm Joel Schnur, and I'm representing more of the other part of the district from Midwood. I'd like to thank the mayor for putting this together. May you have great success in the re-election, and I'd like to thank the councilman. May you have great success in being the next speaker.
Whoa.
Okay.
Watch out. Watch out.
A little louder, maybe. I want to just bring to your attention that in my area of the district, where we have a predominantly Jewish and Muslim communities, there have been some glitches in some of the holidays with scheduling of some of the city agencies and their services. Is that better to go through your office, to go through Jumani's office, which we've done in the past?
Joel, which agency you're talking about, or agencies?
Parks Department was one of them.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do, we have our colleague from the Parks Department here. Who's here? Oh, Mitch is here himself. The Parks Commissioner is here. Thank you, Commissioner Silver. Would you like to speak to this issue of how we can... Are we talking, what specifically, Joel? You want to get a little more?
There was a lot of tree pruning that was going on the morning of Purim when all the synagogues were having events.
Okay. You know about this?
I didn't know. I'm hearing about this for the first time.
Right, it was corrected because of the councilman, and it was pushed off.
Okay, so why don't we do this? We have the Parks Commissioner. Why don't you get together afterwards, and let's make sure that isn't done again. Thank you.
Rocky.
Give God the glory. First of all, my name is James Rocky Robinson. I created the first multicultural volunteer ambulance corps in the world. I now have the solution for stopping the violence. Jobs. Give them jobs and they will not rob. I have trained over 1,000 young EMTs who are now paramedics, doctors, nurses, police officers from the little ambulance corps on the corner of Marcus Garvey and Green Avenue. These young people, I give them tough love. They have discipline. And my question is, how can we get the proper funding to bring all of these organizations together so these young people could get jobs? That is my question to you, sir.
I will answer the question, but Rocky, I want to just say you are a New York hero, and I want to thank you for all you have done.
I would also like to present this to you.
Oh, thank you.
Because you're also my hero.
All right.
And the borough
Thank you.
president also.
But Rocky, thank you. You hit the nail on the head because you've lived it. And you know, how many was it, 1,000 you said? Probably more. But each, so I think it gets back to the dialogue we had a moment ago about connecting each young person to an opportunity. For some young people, it will be education first. For some, it's straight to job training and a job. For the first time, I would say in a while, we actually have some of that capacity. So what I'm asking everyone to do, because I do think there's a participatory element to this, help us connect the young people who are not yet connected. I said at the very beginning of the town hall meeting, if there's a child who needs pre-K and still not signed up, let's do that starting tonight. Or after school for middle school kids, we need to sign them up. But we just heard about 1,700 jobs that Greg Bishop is able to direct people to and give them training for. We need help finding the young people who are ready to go down that path positively because the city can do something about it. It's not perfect, it's not everything, but we have some of those resources right now. And the goal is to keep building upon it. I think in truth, in the past in this city, millions and millions and millions of dollars are put into job training that wasn't real, that wasn't effective, that didn't actually teach young people skills for today's economy. They weren't linked to jobs that lasted. Greg has been one of the people trying to change that, and I think it's having a real effect. So we have the beginning of that solution you seek. Thank you.
I'm going to pick a few people in this section. We're just going around. That's all we're doing.
Good evening. My name is Terry. So my question, I'll get to the question, but I want to say in New York City alone, there are about 180,000 young adults ages 16 and 24 that are disconnected, right? In addition, the unemployment rate for those are 4 times what the regular unemployment rate is, which is 33 to 35 for 16 and 24 out-of-school youth, right? So I'm a summer youth advocate. Totally.
You got to try to get the question.
No, I'm going to get the question. So here's my question about summer youth. These employers save $10,000 to $15,000 when they work with these young adults. What kind of incentives can we offer employers to continue and hire kids, you know, and not just use them as free labor?
Okay, I'm going to give, I think Jumani is much more expert than I, but let me give you what I think is part of the answer. I think that the employers need to feel from City Hall that it is a real priority. And they need to understand that the future of the city depends on it. And they also need to understand, and we've heard this from a lot of employers, that maybe some are more cynical as you describe, but I think a lot of employers have come to realize a lot of these young people become very devoted employees. A lot of these young people help the employers understand what's happening in the world and how they can get their product to be appealing. So I have a little more benevolent view, But I think the resources we're putting in, again, we've gotten now to 60,000 for this summer. We've opened the door now for a lot more because of Jumani's work. My sense is there are a lot of employers who are buying into it, but a lot of it is we have to stay on them. That's what we've been doing in City Hall. We literally work employer by employer to convince them to take on more young people or to convince companies that are not yet in it to become a part of it.
So one of the reasons that we got 60,000, that was the mark we wanted for the first year. That was also because the advocates said that's all they can handle this first year because they have to build out the infrastructure to get more jobs in. So we should start encouraging our local businesses to take these young people and also elected official and city agencies. There's a lot of city agencies and elected officials don't have any summer youth as well. Next time you go to Medell's, you want to say thank you to them. I believe they are the largest employer, private employer of summer youth in the city. Hopefully we can get more to do that. But it's about building out the infrastructure. That's one of the reasons, I mean, we had to push for the 60,000, but that was one of the reasons we couldn't even ask for more because the infrastructure is not there yet.
I've been waiting for a while, a long while. My name is Sledge. I'm a violence interrupter for GMAC, and I was the gun violence that we are talking about today. That's one. Two, in the town hall meeting, I just want to hear this question like nobody asked this question yet, but maybe she might have hit on it, but this is it. Like, why does it seem like miraculously all the gun violence is in, I don't want to play the race card, but in the African-American communities? I don't hear about gun violence in Bensonhurst or in other communities. Like, where all these guns are miraculously coming from in our neighborhoods?
I don't even understand where to begin with that question. So I'm going to challenge you back. So, first of all, thank you for the work you do. And I really mean it because there's some strength. You know, you said very honestly and openly what your life had been like before. To turn it around takes personal strength. To then go and help others takes more personal strength. Thank you for being that person. I'm turning it back to you because I think there's several ways you can interpret that question. So I want to make sure I'm actually speaking to your answer. Why do we have a broken society that glorifies violence? Why do we have no national gun laws? Why are guns flowing in from the South? I mean, there's lots of ways I could talk about it, but what are you trying to ask?
I mean, it's simple. Like, just like what I said, like, miraculously they just end up. I mean, I don't know any gun makers in my neighborhood. Like, I don't make no guns. He can't make no guns. I just want to know, like, how is it happening? Like, how is they able to get to this point point right here?
I mean, let me say I'm giving my answer. I don't want to get the mayor or anybody else in trouble, right?
Because I know how it's...
So, two, I think I always say there's two buckets, right? There's one of the supply and the demand. We got crazy people in Washington that are not dealing with the supply. That's just ridiculous what's going on with the supply. On the demand side, I think the city is trying to do some things. There's a lot more that needs to be done. But directly to your question, and this is where I'm going to step away, people say the system is broken. I don't think it's broken. I think it's operating exactly how it's supposed to act. And the people who are lacking the services, the system was designed that way. And so we're trying to change it. Not fix it. We got to change it because from the beginning of this country, it was designed for certain people to be at the bottom, certain people to be at the top. Now, when I say that, it's not to give an excuse to people because we all have decisions that we have to make and we don't have to fall into the trap that was there. But we should talk about the structural inequities that are there so that young people can understand the trap that they're facing and make the proper decisions.
But look, yes, but the
yes and
okay, yes and that was very good. There's a massive inequality problem in this country, and there's a history of racism, structural racism, and the economic impact of that. But I want to be at the same time clear that, you know, there is a gun industry, And I think this does transcend race because that same gun industry is creating a product that is flowing into hands all over the country and killing people of all backgrounds. Remember, most victims of gun violence happen to be of my particular racial background. So, you know, I think it's even in some ways more cynical than what you allude to, because there is an economic reality, and there's a racial reality, and then there's a crime reality, which no one should underestimate either in the equation. But I don't want to, sort of from my personal point of view, I don't want to say, hey, there's some big cynical game going, and that's the whole thing, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's not what I personally believe. I believe that the power of the NRA to block the laws is one piece of the equation, and that goes way beyond race. That's a much bigger problem.
That's a fact.
And I believe corporate greed is a part of the problem, and that is just equal opportunity in the worst sense of the word, right? And then I believe structural racism is a part of the problem. And then I believe there's a criminal piece, which is a separate part of the problem. So I think there's no one little piece. Every single one of those things can be addressed if we are organized. Thank you.
1, 2, 1, 2. What's your name? 1, 2. Good to see you. Appreciate you. Thank you. I'm coming.
Jimani's getting in trouble.
Yeah, that's why they gave me this job. They want me to lose the votes.
Jimani, why are you so insensitive? Why don't you care, Jimani?
I'm coming around.
I thought he cared about
Hello.
people.
Hello. Hi. Good evening. My name is Rose. So all this talk, and there are many organizations here. How can we work with your office to build a community center where these organizations can work out of? Violence doesn't happen 9 to 5. It doesn't happen 8 to 4. It's 24/7. So with a facility in our community, we can have different organizations on site 24 hours a day here to help, curb or prevent, gun violence. The whole theme here with gun violence is prevention. So one of the main keys that we need in our community to, flourish and be more successful is a community center. How can we work with you to make that happen?
Okay. So I think, first of all, I obviously get the point. We want to get to prevention. I get the point about having a physical base for it. Now, what I am trying to be very careful about, because I do a town hall meeting regularly all over the community, I don't go and tell people things I'm not going to deliver. So let me be very straight about that. There's a lot of communities I'd like to see youth centers and the kind of things you're talking about. We will work to that, but right now, I want to be real about we're putting the money into pre-K, after school, the cure violence efforts, we're putting the money into job training. There's a lot of things we're devoted to that we're not going to stop being devoted to. If I can find the resources on top of that for a community center, I would like to do it because I get the value of it. And what we'll do is work with Jimani to see, working with the city council, for the budget coming up, if we can make that happen. Please.
Funny you should say that. We have the Shirley Chisholm Center that we've been trying to get built on Tilden Park. We got some capital funds in there this year. We want to get a whole lot more to actually get it built, but I believe in you.
I like that. You have some capital funds and you want a whole lot more.
Yes.
Okay. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
Place where they can go into. And I feel that as taxpayers, as homeowners, as people who are the backbone to this community, we totally need that from your office. And there's a lot of vacant buildings in our community that the city owns. People buy buildings for pennies on end, but when it comes to establishing something that's a foundation in our community, we have to go through a lot of red tape. And since we're here at a town hall meeting talking about gun violence, I think, you know, that's a major thing in addressing gun violence.
No, I hear you. I'm not missing it. And look, again, I think it is more respectful to say, I get the point, and you've got on my radar there's a need, and we have to see if we can do something about it, than to promise you something that's not real. But I also want to note Erica's point. Another thing we have to do is we have a lot of facilities that exist, like this one right here, and open them up to communities. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. You can disagree, but this is what I believe. We got to do a lot of different things at once. So we're going to try to, one by one, get all those things done. But
by the way, we don't have a community center within about 2 or 3 miles of this whole area.
I hear you.
I'm coming now.
My name is Sean Pryor. I am a founder and executive director of Guns Down. I've been involved with gun violence for the past 10 years. I have an initiative. It's a buyback guns program. It's called Killing Guns with Construction Guns. All right? Most of these youth get involved with gun violence because there's a lack of jobs. Not only that, but they don't have the proper skills or education to employ the proper job. So how could this initiative partner up with community-based organizations like GMAC, Man Up, Life Camp, SOS, and how could you help fund this initiative? It's self-sufficient once it's funded by your office.
So you're saying, just to clarify, you're saying it is an initiative to train young people for construction opportunities.
Yes. So when they do the buyback guns program, right, instead of just offering them $200, offer them a voucher, something that they can learn a trade. Plumbers make a lot of money. Electricians make a lot of money. You know, so they can have a skill. They can feel the value of something, that they're worth something. You know, and, you know, these kids don't, that's why they change, that's why they go to different criminal activities, to make some type of money. But if they learn a skill, a trade, then they could always be able to provide for their families.
So let me suggest Greg Bishop right here. This is a really interesting idea. I appreciate this idea. Can we, okay, we have that, I am told. Please explain how you're going to work together.
So, I'll get your information. What we have is, can you hear me? Oh, there you go. So we have something called individual training grants. So if there is a program that someone is interested in actually taking, we can actually pay for that particular training. So I can give you more information about that. It's through the Workforce One centers. We have to find official training programs. There's a site that you can go to, and then once you want to actually get into that program, we can give you an ITG, it's called. So I'll give you some more information about that.
Actually, over here first. Over here first. It's okay, guys. Go. No, in the peach.
Thank you. I don't know why you didn't call me Suler, and we have the same color shirt on, but it's okay. My name is Lily. I'm from Tent Ministries. You guys can Google us. It's a not-for-profit, faith-based organization. I just wanted to say that I agree with the gentleman who spoke earlier regarding offering job opportunities in order to stop. I like the gun buyback program, and my question is, I was just wondering if you've ever considered perhaps instead of giving them cash, which they can spend in a couple of days, would you consider giving them maybe college courses or something that would give them more opportunities, or maybe certifications and stuff for job placement? I think that would help in the long term instead of just giving them money where they can buy another gun in the future.
Thank you. I think it's a good companion piece to the point that was raised before. So I don't know enough about the gun buyback programs and how they're structured, but I like the notion of connecting to something other than just a cash payment or something, or a cash payment and something that is forward-looking. So we're going to follow up on that and see what we could structure. I don't know who knows the most about gun buyback in this group over here. Does anybody know most about gun buyback in this group? Okay, it's going to be Marco then. Where did Marco go? Marco, you get the assignment. Marco Carrion. We'll do a follow-up with PD and other agencies about considering augmentation of gun buyback to add other features to it.
All right, I'm going to start mixing up. But before my mom leaves, I just want to shout her out over there, Patricia Williams, my mom, who was consistently in my business when I was young.
My name is Rosalind Jackson. My son, Donnell Smith, was murdered in Glenwood Houses August 1st of last year. I'm listening to everybody from all these community-based organizations talking about their prevention tactic. But when you actually have to go out into the community and gain the trust of the community, because the community won't help the police. And that's why a lot of the crimes goes unsolved, because it's not only the community. The parents of those youth that's out there they need help as well. It's not just about the youth, it's about the parents and improving on their parenting skills in order to help prevent gun violence. If the parents don't trust the police, their kids ain't gonna trust the police. If the community don't come together as one, all of these community-based organizations ain't gonna mean nothing. Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Money is going to them, but the actual community in and of itself, it don't just consist of the youth. It consists of the parents as well. And if the parents don't trust the police, their kids is not gonna trust the police.
You have a question also?
No, mine is a comment because
Okay.
I'm listening, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to everything that everybody is saying, but not one person address the trust issue that people of the communities have with the police.
Well, listen, you're making a very big and fair point that we got to get to the heart of the matter. Now, I have immense respect for the fact that you're coming here and trying to take your pain and turn it into something for the good of all. But I will say, I want to just beg your remembrance that at the beginning I talked about the issue of the relationship.
They going out to these communities, but a lot of the people in the community, which are the parents of the youth that's going out there committing crime, don't understand the severity. They go and commit a crime. If they're 16 years old and they commit a crime, they kill somebody, they go to jail, they get 27 years. But they ain't got to do the whole 27 years. They still have privileges to talk to their families, to get commissary, to get visitation. What we have nothing but memories of our loved ones. That's all we have. Only memories that we have is to go visit them at their gravesite. The justice system is not, is hindering, needs help as well.
I understand, but look, I'm trying to say to you that I think all of the cure violence organizations are trying to not only stop, wait a minute. I didn't get to finish the sentence, so I don't know if you can read my mind. But they are not only trying to stop the crime, in my view, they are trying to change the relationship between police and community. And I fundamentally believe that neighborhood policing strategy does that, and training police officers differently does that. We're not there yet. No one's saying we've crossed over to this new world. But the point, I just want to say it, I really am hearing your point, but I want you to hear the construction of a new reality. You're absolutely right. If you say, if we cannot get police and community to trust each other, and we can't get young people to trust police and parents to trust police, then we're stuck in a very dangerous place because no one will help each other stop the crimes or solve the crimes. I'm not missing you. But I think if you look at the building blocks to restoring that trust, they're beginning to happen. I also believe when you speak to the point, I hear you loud and clear about parents needing to learn parenting. There are definitely parents we've got to figure out some way to reach. But I take a view, I look at the child first. It's just a different emphasis. I look at the child first. I don't know if I can reach every adult and reprogram them away from some of the pain and some of the things that may have made their lives dysfunctional. We're focused, again, on mental health. We're focused on a lot of things that might change the trajectory of people's lives. What we do know is with our children, we have a chance early to get them on the right track. That's why we're focused on things like early childhood education. So I don't have a clean, perfect answer because you're raising the essence of the problem. But I am saying if the question is, are there real things that can be done to change that history and bring police and community into more of a trusting relationship, I believe the answer is yes.
So, but before, I'm going to call on Erica. So I want to say the cure violence and the crisis management system they have a 20 by 20 block radius. They do a lot of what you're saying, so they're not all over the city. But also, we are working on a mayor's office of gun violence, which we're still working out, which I think is going to be exciting. There's a bill, Lori Cumbo, Vanessa Gibson, and myself, and the mayor's office, and a lot of advocates are working on. So this is part of the solution, but there's a lot of other things that we're trying to bring into it as well. But I'm going to...
No rapping. So, good evening, Mr. Mayor, and to all of the commissioners and Mayor's team who have supported us and worked with us to do the work that we do. I think that the clarity on we're not Cure Violence. We are the New York City Crisis Management System, which is 18 sites and over 52 organizations that work together to not only intervene but prevent violence. It is a process. It is not a miracle, it is a process. And that is something that I had to learn because I wanted everything to happen right now. I'm offended by you saying you don't know our work. But...
Wait a minute, I don't know how you can be offended if someone's telling you the truth.
But I'm offended.
Well,
because you stood with me before you were the mayor. Time after time.
I said I haven't experienced it, Erica. I haven't been out and seen it. That's what I said.
But I'm gonna, I can still be offended, right? But I thank you for the continual partnership. We're gonna grow in our experience. The question of the parents that Orisa, Sister Carolyn, Jackie Rowe Adams, Maxine are the head of the parents in this system. Natasha, Shanae Johnson, and we not only give continual support to parents and will continue to give continual support to parents in all of our sites, but we end up hiring parents to work with us in the system because they are the ones who are connected to the parents and they go to the hospital. Ms. Dixon is a hospital responder. She goes to the hospital and she works with the people, the families when they're impacted. We have interrupters that interrupt before the police even know about a situation. They have interrupted, taken guns. Ms. Dixon, on Saturday, we watched the video in my office. She, by herself, interrupted a young man from being shot. Another young man was shot. And you see the man running down the street, the lady with 2 babies, she's trying to interrupt this and interrupt that. The police came afterwards because someone had to call them to come to the scene. So the violence interrupters and the outreach workers are on the front line with no vests, with no pension plan, with no health insurance, with no backup emergency squad to come in, with no high-intensity training on taking guns out of hands, but they are in the belly of the beast, in the black box, on the side blocks, in the projects, and yes, a lot of children have been killed. We get to Texas night after night, young people shot. We are not miracle workers, but we are young brothers and sisters who are committed to this work in partnership with the city, and we hope to get all of the kinks out and continue to grow and continue to service all of the city.
Thank you, Erica. Leroy, in the black. No, right there. Leroy.
I want to say good evening to Jumaane Williams, the mayor. We have the state assembly, the state senator, Mr. Kevin Parker. And I want to ask the mayor a question. I'm an owner for a commuter van service in New York, and there's several commuter vans in New York City that carry several people that they don't have the proper job, low income, and years ago, we took care of the city when the city is in crisis, and now that the crisis is over, we feel like the city turned their back on us, and that's what's going on in the commuter van industry in New York City. What is the mayor going to do about it to keep a safe street with the commuter vans in New York City? Not only one commuter van company, over 60 companies in New York City. The senators is reaching out, the council member is reaching out. What is the mayor doing reaching out for the commuter van in New York City?
So tell me, is the issue you're raising what the need for more enforcement?
We need more enforcement, and we need also for the mayor to help the city council to make the licensed commuter van company more licensed. The assemblyman just passed a bill in the assembly.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
No, look, I very much want to see more enforcement too, because from my point of view, if we have van companies that have done the right thing, got licensed, serve the community the right way, and others who don't, that has to mean something, and that means we have to have better enforcement. We're working with the precincts, and I think, tell me, is it 6-7 in this case, or what is it? We're working with 6-7. We had this conversation earlier about the need to increase their enforcement and TLC. So I'm committed to you that we will work to increase the amount of enforcement.
Dear Mr. Mayor, one more question I want to ask you.
I can't.
That was
okay.
So, the mayor's still here. I'm doing the best I can. If I stay in one section, they get mad. If I ping pong, you still get mad. I cannot call everybody at one time. I am not disrespecting anybody. I see everybody. I love you all. I know you guys know me. I just cannot call 5 and 10 people at the same time. Yes, I have. I'm blaming y'all the next election, though. I'm not taking all of it by myself.
Good evening. My name is Yolanda Hinton. My son, Tony Hinton, was assassinated on July 11, 2014 with a .40 caliber handgun by the perpetrator who pumped 9 bullets into my son. I just received his autopsy last week. Just today, I picked up his cell phone from the Supreme Court, which still had his dried up blood on the phone. So, I've been called too sensitive. A mother who lost her only child. I've been called too sensitive. Okay? I need to know that $32 million that was just put in place for anti-prosecution services, any of that money going towards these organizations in the police department to give them proper training on how to deal with families who have lost loved ones, because some of these leaders that are in the forefront of these organizations need training detrimentally. I'm not saying, I'm not against cure violence, I'm not against the police, but when my son was murdered, I was feeling like I was the perpetrator, okay? And by the cure violence site, I was talked to like I was a nigger on the street, and I was a victim.
So I want to first say, 1, I'm sorry what you went through, because it's definitely trauma. 2, whether we talk about the cure violence, the police department, the Department of Education, you're going to run into people that probably need a little extra information, a little extra training. So I'm not saying I'm not going to say you didn't go through it, but help us after this find out which side it was and who it was, so that we can go and figure it out, because things are going to happen. None of this stuff is perfect, and we know none of it is perfect.
And I understand that. My question is, when you try to reach out and ask for help and to fix the problem, everybody's saying, oh, he's been on the job too long, or that's just how she is. Nobody tries to hold anybody accountable for mistreating people, and it has to stop, because I am suicidal because I don't have my son, and I could have been pushed over the edge by the detective who was handling my case and by the cure violence leader who talked to me like I was trash. They need sensitivity training implemented in these organizations. I emailed you several times. I voted for you. I feel very neglected. I'm very passionate. And I'm out there every day trying to change the mindset of young people, because my son was a sacrifice. So I have to speak life into these young people. That's my mission now.
So my staff is here also. My staff will raise their hand, but I want to make sure we get the information from you. If you're suicidal, that's a problem. So I want to make sure that we get the services that you need. I don't, but I can only imagine. Okay. I'm going to let the mayor respond.
So, please. Go ahead. Thank you. Okay. So, Yolanda, so, okay, first of all, I want to make sure I'm not missing the fact when you're saying that someone is already in agony and then they're not treated properly, that's not acceptable. So I want you to hear from the perspective I bring as the leader of the city, no, that's not acceptable. And I think you said something very important that I can understand immediately, the way people explain away unacceptable behavior. And it doesn't matter if someone's been on the job 20 years or what. We're all public servants, and we're supposed to try and help people in need, and particularly someone who's been through something as horrible as you went through. So, one, yes, everything we're doing to train every single officer, we're literally training the entire police department over again. And it is to change the attitude, to change the approach to community, to be more respectful of the fact that every citizen needs to be treated like the people we're serving. That's going on across the entire NYPD. Jumani is right. Everybody, if they have an experience with anyone, NYPD or any other agency, where they're treated disrespectfully, we want to know about it because we want to deal with that person and let them know that's not acceptable and retrain them. Or in some cases, if someone does that, it may be a violation of their oath and maybe they shouldn't be doing that work. So we definitely need to know your individual cases, and my team will follow up with you to hear that. Yep.
All right.
I understand that, and I think it's important. I think it's important for the people who are supposed to end up working with a family to hear that perspective. So we do need your help. As for what you said personally, what you're going through, I want to make sure we're supporting you. So I would like our folks to talk to you as well. Thank you.
Yes, good evening. Mr. Mayor.
Oh, hold for a second. So we still have the mayor for a few. I appreciate everybody being here. I know it's a long time. We're trying to get to everybody. It's important that we had this town hall meeting. It was very important to me that we elevated this issue to talk about it. So thank y'all for being here. A lot of folks are going to be mad at me. I cannot get to everybody. I'm trying, though. I'm not showing any favoritism.
Thank you very much, Jumani. We really appreciate you. God bless you. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for all that you have been doing for these past 3 years. Mr. Mayor, you know that the faith-based community has been one that has been in your corner. And the 67th precinct is one of the best precincts in the entire New York City NYPD.
We got to try to do the question.
And they have the 67 Precincts Clergy Council that has been, and you've been reading about it, what Jumani is all what it's been doing. But we need some help. What sort of a support you can give to the churches? Because most of these kids, their parents are in church, and most of them can tell you that the church can play a great role in solving a lot of these problems. How can you support especially the 67th precinct to be able to do and improve what they're doing to help Inspector Gallardo?
Look, I think the simplest answer is we're very, very clear, and I've said it, you know, as a change of approach from the previous administration, Reverend. We value faith-based organizations. We think the faith community is necessary partners to make change. It's just a different view of the world, and that's across all faiths. So one of the things we're doing is, as I said, I mentioned some of our achievements pre-K after school. We did that with faith organizations too. We believe that the police will be much more effective working with the community with a deep partnership with faith organizations. And everything we're doing with affordable housing, we're giving opportunities for faith organizations to be a part of it. So it's a different philosophy that I think is now being felt through all our agencies to try and reach out in the beginning of what we're doing and connect with faith groups and empower them in the process.
Thank you, Councilman. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Throughout your administration, from the very beginning, you have had a constant and great emphasis on homelessness. We applaud you for what you've done. Most recently, over the last 6 to 9 months, the focus regarding homelessness has now, that's switched, but you have a greater emphasis now on security within these shelters throughout the city. My question to you, Mr. Mayor, is, we're focused now on what's happening inside the shelter. You have shelters now that are sited inside communities, and we need to know what is it that you've planned or is currently in the works regarding security in regards to those shelters in our communities.
There's a specific shelter on Glenwood Road that had some issues with the security gate, with trash, and a whole bunch of issues.
Steve, come on over. I want our Commissioner for Social Services, Steve Banks, will speak to some of the specifics about Glenwood Road, but let me just say the broad answer, and I appreciate the question. We have a right to shelter in New York City, and you understand that. Almost 58,000 people, which is a very painful number in our shelters. So we are going to make sure we have a roof over everyone's head. At the same time, we're going to work very hard to reduce the shelter population. It's more affordable housing, more supportive housing for folks with mental health problems, so all that's moving. But until we get that to work, we must have a place for everyone every night. Steve's going to talk to you about the bigger approach we're taking to improving security, and specifically Glenwood Road.
Thank you very much for your question. Just to pick up on one point the mayor made and then get to your specifics, we've been very focused on preventing homelessness. Evictions are down in the city 24% because of the resources the mayor has put into legal services and rent arrears. The moving out of more than 30,000 people is part of the effort to really turn around a number of years of neglect. The number we would have had in the system in the coming year would have been 71,000, given the trajectory that was inherited. So we're very focused on prevention and move-outs. But while people are in shelter, we've asked the police department to conduct a review of security in all city shelters, and we're very confident that when they complete that review, we'll be able to implement some further reforms. Now, Councilmember Williams, who I've known for many years, is a great advocate for the community, reached out to me about specific issues involving that shelter. So let's just tick them off what, with his intervention and the mayor's support, we're going to be able to address. Security fence, done, putting it in. The security fence that I know has been a long-standing problem, done. By the way, that decision comes against the review of homeless services that the mayor asked us to conduct, a 90-day review to look at the whole system, take a reset. We took a look at particular shelters. That's one of them. We know that the community's been concerned about having that security fence put up. City's going to pay for it, and we're going to work out the timetable with the council member moving forward. Secondly, there's been an issue about the dumpster, and I know the community wants to keep it where it is. It's going to stay where it is. We've got some back and forth to go with the landlord, but we understand what is represented by the council member the community's needs are. Going to do that. Playground also in the front. There's been some issues around air conditioning. Going to address that as well. You have a great advocate for this community and the council member. He's made it very clear what the issues are, and we want to be responsive to the community around that particular shelter. I have to say, it is run by a very reputable provider, Wynn, run now by Chris Quinn, and we've been working very closely with her on making reforms in the system. And this particular shelter, we're going to make some changes as well.
Thank you very much. That's a win for the civics. I thought there was a young person there. Okay.
Good night, everybody. The mayor, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've always wanted to meet you. But tonight, I wanted to address all the parents, especially in here. Parents has a lot to do with what's going on with the young people. Nobody is addressing it. My grandson, Saturday was 3 years, my grandson was killed. He was 31 years of age. That's my daughter, his mother. We were at the cemetery to just look at among the dirt on Saturday. His parents get to visit him in the jail. He only got 23 years. He put 6 bullets in my grandson for nothing. My grandson didn't even say anything to him. This girl tell them, I'm going to bring my boyfriend because he hit this young woman. The guy was a monster. And as soon as he saw my grandson come with him, he just unload the gun, kill him.
So my prayers, but we want to see if we can get a question also, so we can.
My question is, why is the parents encouraging these children with guns in the house? In March of the same year, the gang squad raided the parents' house. He was only 20, and they found the gun. He went to court, he got jail time. They bailed him out for $10,000. By June the 24th, he had a gun that he could have shoot my grandson. The parents ran away with him the same night.
Let's see if to get the mayor to answer or try to address the question, which is about the parents and why they're allowing them to have
Parents, when this detectives come to me at 2 o'clock in the morning and they tell me my grandson is killed, I said, let me go see my grandson. They say, he's in the morgue. I said, he's in the morgue? And it was just around the corner from my house. He says, yes, he was shot since about 11:30 the night. I said, now you come in? He says, he had no ID. We couldn't find him. He says, your grandson is a good kid. There was nothing in the computer. He hasn't had a court case. He's not a criminal. You go down as soon as you come to yourself and let the city bury your grandson, because he was not in any illegal business.
So let me see if the mayor can start to respond.
This is the hurtful things, and the parents need to be told. They cannot be the children's friend. These children need somebody who could train them. They want to be the children's friend. Their friend when they're in the 20s and they're big like you, but not when they're kids growing up.
My continued prayers. I want to try to get to some of the others as well.
So there's two things. There's the part that we can do, which is the police. And I think the fact is the police are getting better and better at getting guns. And this is part of the equation. Finding the guns and getting them off the street and disrupting. When we're talking about actual criminal enterprises that use guns, I know there's a lot of concern here about not mischaracterizing kids who have gone astray a bit but are not hardened criminals. But we also have hardened criminals out there who are putting guns into neighborhoods. The police are doing a better and better job at getting at them and getting those guns off the street. We have to do a lot more. But the parenting point, I want to be very straightforward with you, and I'm a parent myself. Every parent has to take some responsibility. And that's not something government can tell people to do. We can do our best to help every parent have support, have early child education and child care and after school and all of the things that help a parent to do their job. But a parent also has to make a personal decision to bring up their child the right way.
Give me both mics, because I waited a long time for this. Hello, Mr. Mayor. It's been a long time since I've seen you.
How are you?
Councilmember Jamani Williams. I just want you guys to know that for a long time, I've been trying to get a town hall meeting. Let me say to y'all, my son was killed in 2005 by a New York City police officer. And since that day, I've done everything in my power to make sure that another child don't lose their lives. And that means that sometimes that you have to work with the police department. And I've been doing that. I don't have no issue with them. I don't want nobody to think that it's us against the police. But what I need the mayor to understand is that back in the days, we had a system where you knew who Officer Jones was. He knew everybody in your house, including the cat, and if there was a couple of roaches, he knew them too, because that's how informed he was. That's missing. We need that back, that interaction between the community and the police department. And to anybody that's out there doing a crime, stop being selfish. Because when you're doing the crime, you're being selfish because you're leaving your mother, your father, your sister, your brother behind. That needs to stop. If you want to do something about gun violence, do about what you can do today about gun violence so you don't have to worry about it tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to pick up on the point you made about how policing used to be. And Inspector, I want you to join me for a minute because I think the example you gave before, I'd like you to just play it out a little bit more. Talk about this new neighborhood policing approach. So this is back to the future. It's just begun. But I want you to describe, as the commanding officer of the precinct, what you want to see your officers do, explain what an NCO does, because I think this gentleman's raising exactly where we need to go, and I think we're on that path. Make it vivid for people.
Absolutely. I give you some good examples of what the program's going to be, what it is, and where it's going. And it's a program that is exactly what you're talking about. Our NCO officers, handpicked the best we have in the precinct, reflective of the community. We put them out there. They're the problem solvers. For too long in the police department, it came from me up top, down to the bottom. We're now empowering our officers to be the problem solvers, and that's the idea behind it. So when a complaint comes in, they go out and solve it. They solve it as police officers, but more importantly, when they solve this problem, they solve it within the community with the help of the community, and it's not coming from the top. It's coming from building relationships within the community. I'm going to give you an example of how this works, and there's two examples. The first one is a woman comes in and she says, listen, they've taken over my house, they've taken over my building, I don't know what to do. The NCO officer said, all right, we'll take her right over there. Sure enough, gang members had taken over the house, taken over the apartment. They went in with her, the owner of the building, and they took 6 gang members out that were doing robberies in Manhattan, that were victimizing our neighborhood. Just from him walking in, they took her right to the NCO's office. They initiated this, and they solved the problem right there. Another problem more recently was a group of gang members had taken over the street. A very simple thing, put up a basketball hoop. People in the neighborhood couldn't get through. Small stuff that could lead to bigger stuff. The NCOs went out there, they looked at the block, they tried to mediate with it. People were petrified to walk down the street. We worked closely with them to remove the basketball hoop that was there illegally, and then try to, more importantly, and this is where the piece of the NCO program comes, we're trying to outreach those kids on that block. There's a problem house on that block that we're addressing, but more importantly, those kids now, we go back every day, we talk to them. We're trying to get them into youth programs. We're trying to get them into our Explorer program. So we're engaging them rather than just being, hey, the bad guys. We identify the problem. We know they're leaning towards gang life over there. Community's complaining about it. But our job is not to go there and do enforcement. Our job is, hey, we're going to solve the problem, but now more importantly, we're going to save these kids and we're going to get them out of this lifestyle, and we're going to lead by example and by the officers be out there. And when I met with the community people on the block, I said, these kids live here. We're going to solve the problem with the kids on the block, and we're going to give them a positive outlet. And that's the goal of the NCO program, pretty much in a nutshell.
So it's 9:35. The mayor has graciously agreed to stay until 10. So we're going to try to get as many questions as we can until then. I'll try my best. We're going to keep going.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jumani. My name is Maxine Lewis, and I'm also a mother that lost her, as the lady would say, that her son was murdered for a gold chain. I started a foundation in memory of my son, and our mission is to provide scholarship to high school students, as well as to provide other needed service for elementary, junior high school as well, and kids that drop out of school. Our vision and our goal is to get a recreation center. We are not funded yet, and I know that question had come up sometime in this meeting. A lot of people doesn't look at the mothers, myself, that we do something productive, and that's the feeling that I get. I know we talk about the cure violence a lot in terms of the interrupters and what they go out to do. My question is, and I know you answer, yet I didn't feel that the answer that you gave was satisfactory as a mom. So my question is this: what can you do? And this is a question that is repetitious. What can you do for a community center? I have no funding. I get donation, and I do.
Let me see if he can answer the question.
Yeah,
Because there's people, so we can ask about the community center and what he can do.
What can you do in terms of myself, who believe that I have the solution to help? I'm a social worker, I provide counseling, and I'm also a first responder.
Thank you. So there's a couple of different things that come up tonight, and we're going to try and pursue them all. Again, I have a very strict rule that I don't make a promise unless I know I can keep it. But the concept I feel very comfortable with. One idea is to take spaces like this and make them more readily available to community organizations, make it easier to get them, make it, pay the fees or waive the fees, whatever. So we're going to work on that and see if we can do more of that. Another thing I heard tonight was a base or a sort of headquarters for the Cure Violence organizations. Another thing I heard is a recreation center. There's been talk of a recreation center at Tilden Playground, and that's what Jumani mentioned he's secured some initial funding for. He needs a lot more funding. We'll look at all of those. Trying to get a space like this open more often is the easiest, obviously. Building a whole recreation center, which is between $40 and $50 million, is harder, but we're going to consider that for the next budget. What I promise you is we're taking every one of these ideas and we're going to figure out which ones we can do, and then we're going to come back and report to you, or the councilman report to you which ones got achieved. I can also promise you I can't do everything I want to do, but we can do some of the things, and we'll make the decisions of which one we're going to be able to do.
So,
wait, help me what happened here? I called on her, but you got the mic.
She's part of the group. Yeah. So, first of all, I wanted to thank you for calling me. And I'm Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. I'm president of what's called Foundation for Drug-Free World. I wanted to laud you, number one, because to have an interfaith and have that be very important. Spiritual, religious backbone is a backbone of man. When we lose that, we lose everything, no matter what we have. So first of all, I want to thank you that you're doing that. You've changed it around in New York City. Second of all, is there's something in terms of crime and drugs and violence that's very important here. Because we've done in our program about 1,100 events. We do a lot in Brooklyn.
Can we?
And,
I got a lot of eyes mad at me right now. So please, if we can do the question,
sure. Just one moment. And so last week, Eric Adams had us in his borough, and he declared Drug-Free World Day. There's a tremendous heroin epidemic that is in the city, it's in the state, destroying everybody. It's destroying your kids, our kids. It doesn't matter who you are. So the question is this: is very simple. I know you have a lot of integrity, and what I'd like to know is our group, which is nonprofit, which is not going to cost the taxpayers anything, how can we best help work with the city so that we can work against this heroin problem and educate our kids?
So the issue of heroin and opioids is a huge problem, and we do want to partner with faith-based organizations. I'm going to ask Marco Carrion and his colleagues from the Community Affairs Unit to follow up with you at the end, because we need the partnership, particularly the opioid heroin issue. We all need new solutions. We're not reaching enough kids, young people in particular, fast enough, so we welcome a partnership.
Hi, my name is Felicia, and I didn't really plan on speaking, but I want to get this off my chest. I know a lot of people that died of gun violence, and I have a couple of friends that survived it. So I want to know, what is your plan for the kids that's walking around with the guns and causing a lot of problems? What is your plan?
Well, I appreciate the question, Felicia. I think the simplest way of saying the plan, I mean, again, we do believe that there are some young people walking around with guns who can be helped to find a different life. We do believe the Cure Violence model helps to achieve that. We believe that giving, if they're younger, giving them better educational opportunities, if they're older, giving them job opportunities is part of how you convince someone to give up that negative life. And then, obviously, I do believe there are some young people who have made a decision that they're not going to change, and that's where law enforcement has to be very aggressive. I mentioned in the beginning, we're getting a lot more guns than we used to. The gun seizures by the NYPD are up 20, 25%. That's a lot of guns coming off the street in this city, because we're being more strategic about how to pinpoint them and get them, and working with community members who, the point that was made earlier, often know where the person with the gun is that the police doesn't know, and help them figure out how to do that. So it's both. It's the more positive solution for as many young people as we can reach, and for those who are not willing to change and only want to endanger others, we're going to go take the gun from them.
But thank you for that question. But it's important for young people to know they have a role also. It's very difficult, but trying to make not having a gun not cool is very important. So anything that young people can do to talk to their friends when they see the gun, to not make it a cool thing is helpful, and that's a small part that you can play as well.
Good evening. My son here, he attends this high school right here. And I think that the whole after-school program is an excellent idea to keep the kids out of gangs and violence and everything. But the after-school programs is one of the first things that get cut. Right now, my question is, for this field right outside here, what can you do so that they do not have limited access? Right now, they don't have enough access. They can't get on the field to practice. They can't get on the field for their activities. It's locked. Sometimes they have to go to a different area to practice. What is Department of Ed, or what can you do to force Department of Ed so that these kids can have access to the field, so that they can do their extracurricular activities, so they're not on the streets, so they're not getting into violence, so that they're not idle? That's question number one.
I can only do one question. I'm sorry. We can only do one question.
I'll hold you to that, but thank you very much for that question. I just checked with Jamani, so this is a DOE run. It's not Parks. It's DOE? Okay, so is Dorita still here? There you are, Dorita. Okay, we have Deputy Chancellor of DOE here, and what we will do, and I'd like you to give this some personal attention with your colleagues back at the Tweed building, is there apparently are some issues, the young lady's raising them, but the councilman's raising as well, some issues about access and ground rules and how we can better maximize access. So can we work on trying to clarify that? I appreciate the question. I want to see any recreation facility used to maximum. And I have 2 kids. I know how important it is to give young people those options. So we will work with the councilman to figure out how we can maximize access. Thank you.
Hello, good night. My name is Jerome. I'm part of the Bed-Stuy Volleys. I do have an important question today. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Empire State College, but I am the STEM Club president, as well as being a part of BMI, which stands for Black Male Initiative. One of my biggest problems that I've noticed in the community is that especially African Americans are very intimidated by the STEM courses, or any curricular activities that have to do with STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. So my question to you is, what can we do to make this less intimidating and more appealing, so that way youths in the communities, can flock to it more?
Excellent question. I appreciate that very much. I was just talking to our school's chancellor this morning about a program that's now been started, and it's focused on communities that have not had as much access to STEM programs. And it literally starts in 2nd grade, and particularly in summer for 2nd grade kids and their families who want to take advantage. I think the answer to your question is early. Expose kids early. We have a computer science for all initiative that's now going to be every grade level throughout the school system. We're going to build it out over the next 10 years. The STEM program, for example, I talked about in the summer. What we're doing in the after school. So now that after school is guaranteed, and the young woman earlier said after school has been cut. That was true in the past. In the last 3 years, after school has been increased again. So now if you're a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader, you are guaranteed a free after school seat in this city. And I'd like your help and everyone's help in letting our young people and their parents know that. But a lot of those after school programs have a STEM focus. So I think I think your question is right on the money. It is about maximizing opportunities to get exposure and starting young, and we think we're actually building that now into our school system and our after school.
Good night. Good night. Here's a question. As an explorer from the 6-7 precinct for numerous years,
I'm sorry, wait, I couldn't hear you. Say that. Get the microphone a little closer.
Good night. Here is a question. As an explorer at the 6-7 precinct for numerous years, I have been part of their mentorship and guidance in every part of my life, from elementary to high school. Now, as a senior graduating high school, I was helped by this precinct, not just by the U officer, but from Officer Okuzo in getting into college. My question is, I would like to continue working with the precinct because the cadet program does not allow me to join until I completed 45 credits. Is there a way for the NYPD to waive those requirements for children that have served in a good standing with the program so that they can continue the law enforcement dream?
Well, first of all, congratulations on all you have done. And I look forward to the day when you join the NYPD yourself. On the question of what we can do when the program ends and before someone qualifies to join the force, do we know in terms of auxiliary or any other option? I don't know if anyone has an answer. If there is something that for sort of college age, if someone wants to keep that continuity?
Hi, good evening. I'm Wanda Acevedo. I'm the commanding officer of Brooklyn South School Safety. Cadets are great. One thing that the cadet program does, it goes from, excuse me, I'm stuck. It goes from the Explorer program, which the Explorer program goes up to 21, and then the cadet program picks you up. You can start your process while you start your college process. So by the time you finish your first semester, you'll be ready to come into it. You know that you still have to go through your screening processes, your drug checks, everything. You get an investigator, and the minute that you become a cadet, you have to take the first promotional exam. At that point, NYPD will give you up to $2,500 per semester for your college career until you finish your bachelor's. When you finish your bachelor's, you immediately have to start your process again, and you have to sign, of course, saying that if you accept that money, you will give NYPD your first 2 years after school.
You got it. Now, wait, come back. Very thorough, very impressive. But why don't we say that you will follow up with this young lady and give her some personal coaching as to the next steps she can take. Thank you.
Point of privilege, I'm going to call on Colin Moore, but I want to give a special shout out because he's been fighting battles for a very long time in our community. I want to make sure he gets the respect that he deserves. So thank you very much for being here. Yeah, you can clap for Colin Moore.
Thank you. Good night, Mr. Mayor.
How are
My
you?
name is Colin Moore.
Yes.
I've been a civil rights attorney in this area here for a long time.
Yes.
I want to thank you very much for interacting with the folks until 10 o'clock. Very few politicians give so much of their time to the community.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Jumani for his patience here. Give that man a raise or give him some funding.
Give him a raise.
You're not going through that again.
Mr. Mayor, I have instituted an action against the FDNY. And I'll be honest with you, I have been amazed, confounded, and astounded by the amount of institutional racism that I have found in this agency. As a matter of fact, you remember a couple of years ago, the Vulcan Society, which is the black firefighters, and the Department of Justice brought a class action against the FDNY. Yes. And they were awarded about $500 million in damages. I'm not asking for $500 million. Maybe $500,000 might suffice. But
you're a reasonable man.
Yeah, but the point I am raising is this. I mean, I have looked at the pretrial depositions and so forth, which I want to discuss with you.
So Mr. Moore, we got 8 minutes, and I want to get to some other folks.
So I would like to meet with you and Commissioner Nigro and to discuss a resolution to this matter.
Well, here's what I'll say. I know your long and distinguished career, and I appreciate the question. I have a little difference of interpretation. I think you're exactly right about what was and the Justice Department needing to intervene and a history that's not acceptable. I think if you look at the last few classes that have come out of the academy, you would notice a very big change. And that's in every demographic sense, including ethnic background and residents in the city. So, and obviously more and more women too, which is an important part of the equation. So I'd be happy to make sure that you're meeting with the senior leadership of the FDNY, because I want you to hear, and of course you'll critique as well. But I would argue that, and I've talked to members of the Obama administration about the progress we've made, and I think they believe we have turned a corner and we're now on a trajectory to create an FDNY that looks like New York City.
Good evening. My name is George Tate. I am the chair of Public Safety at Community Board 17. My question is that during the second participatory budgeting, the community voted to have cameras installed at various locations in the area. Then Commissioner Kelly stated that only the
Wait a minute. When are you, hold on, when are you talking about in terms of chronology? You said Commissioner Kelly.
Then Commissioner,
Okay,
Police Commissioner
so
Kelly.
you're going back to 2013 or 12?
Yes.
Okay.
He stated that only NYPD could determine where the cameras could be located. However, since then, there's been shootings, murders at 5 of these locations. I was wondering if is there any way, the money was allocated by our Councilmember Williams. Yes. I would like to know if there's any way that you could speed up the process of installing these cameras in these locations, because the communities are coming to the meetings asking what happened to the cameras.
I think the question, we're just consulting here, the question, I appreciate the question. First of all, the money in the past, as you know, a lot of money went from the City Council for cameras and wasn't spent. And when I came in, that's one of the things we fixed. We got all of those resources spent and the cameras have been going in. In terms of choosing location, obviously, I always want to know what the NYPD thinks will be effective, but I think we can create a cooperative dialogue with the council member, in this case, to figure out where those locations are. So my view is council members, I was one, understand a lot about where the need is. These are the security professionals here in uniform. I think we should seek a consensus, and I believe we can do it a lot of the time. And if you need any help achieving that consensus, I will always be available to you.
Thank you. Marcus, a question. Just a question.
Trust me, it's a question.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Marcus, Community Director of Brooklyn, advocating for Brooklyn. As the mayor know, thank you for the work you're doing. But we've had an issue with the tournaments that's been playing in NYCHA parks, the basketball tournaments that have been playing. I have a tournament that's been going on for 4 years. And this year, the CEO for PSA 3 decided that this team should no longer, these young people should no longer be playing the tournament over there.
Which precinct?
This is PSA 3.
PSA 3.
The inspector said to me...
Chief, do you have PSA 3?
We got it.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
The inspector...
Is it, wait a sec. Is it, it's in a city park or it's on NYCHA?
It's on NYCHA, but when they went to play in the park...
we got to fix it. Michael, where are you?
Okay, Marcus, we got it.
Hold on, because this is an individual problem, I want to fix it. So, Michael Kelly, the general manager of NYCHA, who runs all the NYCHA developments, is going to come see you here and personally work with police to see how we can fix this. Okay? We'll give you some personal service. Thank you.
Hello? Yes, okay. Hello, my name is Alexis Harbor. I am the Community Development Specialist for Bridging Access to Care, formerly known as Brooklyn AIDS Task Force. My question is there anything that can like what I've been noticing is a lot of historic trauma, a lot of issues where mothers, family members, neighbors, like everybody's feeling this trauma, and the conversations when they even ask you a question becomes a whole therapy session. Is there anything that's happening, especially with the work that your wife is doing, with the DA's office, with the victim services, and things of that nature, so that the community can feel comfortable with getting mental health services in the community centers that are available, or the organizations that are in the areas?
Right.
Because there's clearly a need.
There's absolutely a need. So it's an excellent question. I appreciate it, and thank you for the work you've been doing. So the simplest thing, if you If you haven't had a chance to look at the report that my wife put together, Thrive NYC, I would recommend it because it talks about a whole different approach to mental health. And as I mentioned, some of that's going to be in schools and built into so much of what we do in our everyday life. But one of the other very powerful pieces of this is called NYC Support. And that will be starting in just a few months. And it's going to mean that any New Yorker can call. And, you know, once upon a time we had a hotline where they'd say, go to this location, good luck to you. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about something much more developed, where you get referred to the support you need, and then you stay in touch with a facilitator who helps make sure you get the appointments you need on an ongoing basis. You're absolutely right. You could hear the pain and the trauma so many people have been through. We don't want them to have to, you know, coming to a public meeting and expressing it, it's perfectly valid, but that's not a solution. A solution is getting real care. So we are going to, for the first time, have a way that anybody can access care. We're going to keep adding resources to make sure the treatment's available on a bigger and bigger scale. It will not happen overnight. I'm sure you understand it. But what's powerful about this is the notion that every individual is helped to find the pathway to the kind of care they need and to help them stick to it. Thank you.
So it's 10 o'clock. And we got a bunch more hands that I don't think we can get to.
That's for another year's town hall meeting.
I really appreciate everybody's. I was trying, but it's 10 o'clock. So
10 o'clock.
Can we give the mayor a round of applause, please? He stayed till 10 o'clock.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry we didn't get to the questions that folks wanted. My staff is still here.
All the commissioners
and the commissioner is still here. So if you have a question, I'm going to stick around. The commissioner is still here. Please go up to them and ask the questions. I tried not to show any favoritism. I just went around the room. I really appreciate you all coming and making this a topic that makes sense. He's going to take some pictures.